Good morning and welcome back, or greetings, or glad to see you today. This is Carla Hansen along with Jessie Liu. We are with AIDA International. Jessie is one of our top competitors. She is the Chinese national champion. We are speaking to you from West Bay, Roatan, Honduras, the AIDA International Depth World Championships. Today our discipline is men's constant weight with fin. We are anticipating a very big day today. Our world record holder Alexei Molchanov is competing along with several other top contenders and some very interesting new contenders as well. So we're really looking forward to today's events, and we've already started here with our first diver. And Jessie, welcome. Glad to have you with us today.
Yeah.
What do you have to say
Good
about
morning,
today's
Carla.
start list?
Well, we have 36 competitors with some really big deep dives, and I think the highlight will be between Dave Mullins and Alexei Molchanov. They both announced 126 as the deepest announcements of today, so I think they will be competing for gold for sure.
Yeah, that will be really exciting. Dave doesn't compete all that often due to his work commitments. He's from New Zealand, which is far away.
Our first diver, Chris, from Hawaii, and he's got his tag on a 35-meter dive. Looking good, he's coming back up. This could be a really conservative dive for him because I train with him in Hawaii sometimes, and he's doing maybe 40 meters or more usually, so I think he is really just wanting to take his first World Championship experience. And do good clean dives.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's using bifins rather than a monofin. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Jessie?
Okay, Chris is on the surface. He's looking very strong. So, looks like a very good protocol. So usually beginners will start learning freediving with bifins. It's a bit easier to navigate, to control body positions and directions. And then as we progress, divers often switch to monofin. Good job, Chris. White card. Great way to start the day.
Absolutely. Always nice to start on a positive.
Yes. So when divers switch to a monofin, two legs are connected, so it does require a bit technique to really master that dolphin kick. But if the diver is comfortable and able to do that kick with really good technique, the distance that comes with each kick or the power output is further, so the efficiency is better, and that's why we'll see most of the deeper dives are done with the monofin.
Now, are the bifins that our competitors here use the standard fins that you would buy in a scuba store?
The bifins are actually longer, as you can see on the screen, compared to scuba fins. Really, for the entry-level divers, they can use any kind of bifins to just learn the basics and technique. But when free divers use proper freediving equipment, the fins are much longer than the scuba fins, and longer fins are more of an extension of the leg, so that with each kick you get more out of it.
And what would you say, what would be your recommendation? Do you think a stiff fin is better or a softer fin for somebody who's just beginning?
It depends on the person who, what is comfortable to him or her. So like me, I cannot use very stiff fins because my leg get really tired, sore. I feel the lactic burning in my muscles quickly if I use a stiff fin. Some divers who have strong legs, maybe they're athletic and doing a lot of leg workouts, or they were the swimmers or fin swimmers. They're very comfortable with stiffer fins, which has a very good response in the water and just easier to pick up speed. Yeah.
So there is some variance in personal preference associated with the selection of your fin.
Definitely. Yeah.
I see. I just wanted to give our viewers a little background on AIDA International and what we're doing here. I gave you the definition yesterday of what AIDA stands for. It's the Association for the development of apnea, and we are the governing body of international freediving. We are an all-volunteer organization. None of us get paid for all the work that we do. We do this because we really love the sport and want to promote it, and we are all freedivers. We've all been participating in this, so we understand what's going on. And if you would like to see what the current world records are, as we're referring to today, Alexei Molchanov will be diving. He's the world record holder in this discipline, the constant with Finn. All of those records are listed on the ranking list of our website, aidainternational.org. Part of what we do is keep that ranking list. All of the competition results from every competition are all submitted to us. We have a very dedicated man, Valdemar Carlson from Sweden, who's in charge of the ranking, and he enters all the results. So check us out, AIDAinternational.org. We now have our second diver over on the white platform, the first one on that platform of the day. It's Walter Strumbeckler of Austria. He's announced 37 meters and a dive time of 1:10. And here he goes, and he's got a monofin on.
Doing some strong kicks to get past that first phase of freediving where he's positively buoyant, and as he progresses deeper, divers usually soften up their kicks.
Looks like he's having a little trouble there.
Yeah.
Early turn. So he looked like he got fairly close to the plate, but he's on his way back now.
That early turn thing is nice too. We can't get to 3 or 4, 5 second delay on the left side.
He's on his way back up now. I'm not sure that he's competed a lot before, and he's probably just here to learn and have a great time. Here he is at the surface now. With the early turn, the best card that he can hope to get is a yellow card, which means that there is some sort of a penalty associated with his dive. If one does not complete the dive and go all the way to the platform, to the bottom plate and retrieve a tag, they cannot receive full points. So he's just waiting now. He's got Judge Katya Romanova is on the line there. He's got a yellow card. That's not unexpected in that case. He made an early turn. So coming up now on the blue platform, we have Dr. Wani Valdivia, and he is from Peru. He's one of the first divers representing AIDA Peru. He's the only one here in this particular competition. The first time AIDA Peru has participated in a World Championships. We are very glad to have him here. I was having lunch with Wani yesterday, and he was telling me a very interesting story that just happened to him before he came here. Wani is a prominent neurosurgeon in Tampa, Florida, and he was called in on an emergency call on a quite famous actor, you can look that up, and who had a severe stroke in the Tampa airport. And Wani had to rush him into emergency surgery and perform a cranial surgery on him in order to release the pressure and save this actor's life. And it worked, and this actor is now recovering. And Wani told me yesterday that after this complicated 4.5-hour, very dangerous surgery, anytime they operate on the brain, of course it is dangerous, that this actor is expected to be able to resume life and enjoy it. So that's amazing, and here he is now competing. So we have some very interesting athletes who lead very complex lives. So it's not maybe what you think that we do have some that live on the beach and train and just are free divers, but we have others like Jesse who are scientists or doctors or IT people or various things that they only do this as a part-time job. So for fun and enjoyment and a hobby. And Wani said it's really helped him just emotionally, learning how to cope with the stress in his life. So
Right, it's a lifestyle.
yeah.
So it's a good balance between work and fun and brain exercise and body exercise.
Yeah.
And Wani did a really great free immersion dive the other day.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
He
he
got a
was.
national
Oh,
record.
he was so excited. He did 50 meters in free immersion, and he was having a lot of trepidations prior to that dive. He was telling me he didn't think he wanted to do it. His ear was bothering him. He just didn't know. It was pre-comp jitters. It really was, and I convinced him to give it a go, and he did, and he was successful, and he was so excited. So he decided to do another dive today. So
Yes.
we're really glad to see
If he
him.
makes this constant weight dive, 48 meters, it's a new national record as well.
It is,
So,
yeah. So
yeah.
we're just really pleased for him. He's really just starting his career in freediving. Like I said, he has a very busy life outside of the ocean. So, you know, it's not like he can just pick up whenever he wants to. He does have quite the intense schedule at the hospital. So his specialty really is doing spine and neck surgery. He works on patients who have suffered in car accidents, who are paralyzed, and he tries to do neuro repair on them to get them able to ambulate again. Really, really amazing work. So, and when he's getting ready, he's laying on his back. He's got a noodle, and see how Wani does today. I think he's kind of over the hump. You know, Jesse, you can speak to this. You know, do you find yourself more nervous on the first dive of the competition? And does it get any better, or do you find yourself kind of building up for your main focus, or how does it work for you?
It depends on what type of competition, how it's scheduled. So with the Caribbean Cup that just finished prior to World Championship, we have to dive 3 days in a row. There's no rest days in between. And I can feel the fatigue accumulates day after day. And my stress level actually increases for a tight schedule like that, because I really need more time to feel relaxed and refreshed to be ready to go dive again. When the competition is more with a longer period of time, like the World Championship, where the girls and guys get to rest 2 days between their dives, it's really relaxing, and it's very, very good pace for me. And I think the first dive is a little bit more pressure than the later ones, and usually towards the end, everybody is just all about doing what they love and just have a good time in the water.
Oh, that's great. Are you going to be doing a no-fins dive on our
Yes,
last?
I will be doing no fins dive on the 1st of September.
So tomorrow we'll have an off day, and that will be for resting, also for training for those who choose to train. Most people, the one day prior to the competition day, will rest. Some people do like to get out and do a training dive. What do you like to do?
I like to rest the day before.
Wine is getting ready, the countdown. He's taking some additional breaths here, which we call packing. And he does his turn. And there he goes. You can see his monofin come out of the water, strong kicks going down. He was kind of trying to decide. He said, well, should I try 45? Should I try 50? And I said, well, why don't you split it in between? So he came up with 48. I said, well, that sounds good to me. I'm not his coach or anything. I'm just trying to give him some mental support, that's all. And he's having a little trouble, I think, trying to get into the free fall. He's almost there, though. He's very close. Coming up on 42 meters, 46. There he is. He's at the plate. Ah, good work. He started his first class with William Trubridge in the Bahamas. Then he went and trained with Jonathan Sunex in Dominica, and lately, being that he's from Florida, he's been working with Robert King. So he's had a pretty big list of some very good coaching and instruction from some of our top AIDA athletes, and he's really enjoyed that. He's also our competition doctor in Dominica, so he works on the platform and watches over all of our competitors. He's very dedicated to the sport.
Coming up.
And here he comes.
He's breathing, recovering.
Giving the okay sign.
All right, that looks good to me. And he removed the goggles, the nose clip,
He's
and
got
then
his
gave a
tag.
visual sign and said, "I'm okay." And he has tag.
Very good. I don't think he'll be doing no fins. I don't think he's even practiced it at all. So this probably will be his final event of the competition. But but he's got 2 white cards. That's lovely. And a national record.
First national record of the day.
Oh, he will be very, very pleased with that. And we're trying to get a program started in Peru. In December, I went there and judged their first pool competition. It was sponsored by the Peruvian Navy, which is really interesting. They're very supportive of freediving and have really put some effort into trying to get the sport going in Peru. It was really a great competition. They had the whole Navy band there playing the anthems of all the athletes when they came out, and they had everyone all in dress, and it was really beautiful. They had a lovely party, and it was really fun. It was a lot of fun. So they're really trying to get their program going. We've seen a lot of expansion in Central and South America in the last couple of years. The sport is growing exponentially, as it is in China. And maybe, Jesse, you can tell us a little bit about freediving in China.
So I live in Hawaii. I didn't even know that we had the freedivers in China in 2014. That's when I took my first freediving course. Then I did my first competition in May of 2015. After my competition came out, and I got a lot of messages from Chinese fellows, and they are all saying like, wow, we heard about you on news, and we're all freedivers, and we have a club here, and we have AIDA China, and we have a lot of people, and I was so surprised. Since then, freediving has really grown so rapidly in China. The instructors' courses are always filled up, and we have a 15.8 meter aquarium pool. On the weekends, there are 20 to 30 divers every day to learn, and a lot of trips to the Southeast Asia for tropical island deeper dives. And we've had a couple of good national competitions. Last year and this year, One Dive in China organized pool competition in Beijing, and then we are about to have our first national depth championship in Pangalao in September. So the competitive part of freediving is also really growing.
That is really exciting. And today on our list we have the Chinese national men's record holder in this particular discipline, constant weight, in Adeling Wang. He's been competing at several competitions, including Vertical Blue, where he established the new record, and we'll be seeing him today. Let's see what time is his start time.
He is going at 10:42.
10:42. So I hope you'll stay tuned to see his performance today. He has announced a dive of 105 meters, so that's going to be a big thing for him. Now, over on the white platform, we have our next competitor, who is Mitsuhiro Kojima. Hiro is from Japan. He's announced a 50-meter dive in 2 minutes. He's participated in quite a few competitions. He's really excited about freediving. He's a really fun guy. He always has a smile on his face. And here he goes. And let's see how he does on this dive. He's moving along nicely. What do you think about his kick style, Jesse?
He's doing small amplitude, a little bit more frequent kicks. Very natural to me.
Looks like he's trying to get into his free fall here.
Yes. Feel the arrow position of his arms. He dropped his arms to enter the free fall just to be more relaxed.
Coming up on 40 meters now. He's looking solid here. Doesn't look like he's worried about anything.
Small
Doing
kicks,
little
you
kicks,
guys.
yeah.
Adjust.
How do you steer yourself when you have your fin on, Jesse?
I use my fin as well, just to move my body a little bit. This is the discipline that I feel I need a lot of work on, and just practice.
Yeah, we seem to, as in any activity or sport, we have some things which we are naturally better at than others, and some we don't even want to try, and some we want to work at and improve. So, it's a lot of people like this particular discipline because they do enjoy the monofin and the speed and the depths
out
that
of
are-
water.
There he is.
His Japanese teammate is coaching him. His teammate sounds really happy. It's a strong performance.
White card. Very nice. White card from Judge Katerina Romanova. That's very nice. I'm sure he'll be very pleased with that. Just a note on rules regarding judging. You have noticed here that we have judges from all different countries. They are selected by our assembly of national members, and they are voted. And that's who we have as judges here. We have Radek, who's the head judge. He's from Poland. We have Katya, the vice president of the jury. She's from Russia. We have Alexander Rusu, who's Romanian. We have Junko Kitahama from Japan, John Wright from New Zealand, and Sava Sava from Cyprus. According to the rules, we are not allowed to judge a fellow countryman because that would be a conflict of interest. So on this last dive with Hiro, for example, Junko from Japan would not be allowed to judge him. So we make sure that if that judge is from that country, we rotate them off and then move someone else in. So that only takes place in world championships and on world record performances. On national level competitions, you can judge each other, and it's fine. And the reason for that is, let's say that you're having one in China, you don't have to pay to import judges, and it's really a cost factor. So, but when it is a record level, then world record level, then you must have independence. So coming up next, we're going to be on the blue platform. We have another Japanese, Tadahiro Kobayashi. He's announced 55 meters in 1 minute and 40 seconds, and he's preparing now on that line. Let's see. His start time is 9 minutes and 12 at 9:12, and so he's got several minutes here. So Jesse, what's your overall impression of the competition?
I like it so much, really. I got to this island end of July. I was really welcomed by the organizer, the safety team, throughout the training session all the way leading up to the competition. We have very easy living on island, which is kind of important outside of the competition, because daily transportation and where to get food, the temperature, everything is very easy.
Oh, that's great.
It reduces the stress levels for everybody. And the competition site is really easy to get access to. The organizers did a really great job of scheduling and transporting us to the site.
Oh, that's great.
And that eliminates the stress level as well. And then, as you have already seen on the video, every day that we have excellent diving conditions here, right? Good weather,
warm
water. And this is actually the warmest water I've done
Ever
competitive
done.
freediving yet at. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and because of that water temperature, that does create another issue, not issue really, but a question as to what type of suit one might wear.
Yes.
And so for those of you who are just beginning freediving, if you're in warm water, you can wear a thinner suit just for speed and protection from the elements, sunburn, jellyfish, things like that. But you don't need to wear a thicker suit to protect you from the cold. And so that's a factor that you have to consider. And also when you do your practice dives, you have to wear weight according to how buoyant you are, because the thicker suits become very buoyant.
Yeah, so in that way, actually a thinner suit encourages better performances, because when you're coming up from depth, when the suit is compressed and the suit doesn't have much buoyancy, and you can carry less weight, so it's easier to get back up to the surface. Although for divers who are customized to training in cooler or colder water, they might have a different experience in really warm water, that they feel the physiology might be a little different and it takes some time to get used to. Yeah.
Various factors one has to consider when making their choices on equipment. All right, and here goes Tadahiro. He's off on his dive. for his dive to 55 meters. Let's see how he does. He's on his way, has a nice line there.
Yeah.
Nice long look, clean. He's got a nice stretch.
It's like he's going at a very good speed.
Yes.
He's over a meter per second. That indicates good hydrodynamics and efficient kicks. Right? So he's going 1.4, 1.5 meters per second. And now he relaxes, drop his arms.
Looking good. Jesse was mentioning this Roatan and this island in particular, and one of the things we've noticed, which is important to freedivers, is the availability of good
What a
food.
smooth ride.
Very nice, very nice. But we have a really nice selection here of fresh fruits and good food. And freedivers, many of them have a very specific diet. And sometimes you can be in a place where it might be hard to get the kinds of foods you like to prefer to eat and then your body is used to eating. Do you have a particular type of diet that you use for yourself?
It's not very strict. I have definitely improved my diet selections towards more healthy, more fresh options. I really like eat fresh vegetables and fruits. I also eat red meat for my iron levels.
And here he
Alright,
is.
so
Let's see how he looks.
yeah,
Nice, okay,
Very
sign.
strong.
Very strong. I'm sure that was something nice, but I don't know what it was. That comment from, I think it's Sayuri. The Japanese are very supportive in their team of each other. It's really nice. And that's a white card.
good job.
Very nice. We're starting off very nicely here. Very good. Yeah. So, yes, I think for a lot of freedivers' diet, we have a number of them who are vegetarians as well, for various reasons. Some for environmental concerns, some spearfish, and maybe like William Trubridge only eats fish that he shoots himself because that way he knows in which way that fish was caught and that it is not an endangered species or been caught in a net where there's been bycatch or something. And but we have a big variation in what people eat, but generally freedivers try to eat very healthy. So it's nice here. They have an abundance of beautiful fruits at our breakfast every morning, and things that what we're looking for. Sometimes we go places and it can be a little bit difficult depending on the culture and the location if they can get food. Some of these islands being remote, the only things they can receive are via ship that comes maybe once a week, so it can be a little bit difficult sometimes.
Yeah, it's not like a metropolitan city where you have a
No.
huge selection,
No.
but it's really good enough for what we needed to do.
No, it's certainly, we don't have a Whole Foods here on the island, so for those of you who know about that, no, we do not have that, but we do have some adequate things. It's very and nicely prepared too. So now on the over on the white platform, we have Chris Funada coming up from the U.S. He's announced a 61-meter dive in 2 minutes. Chris is another one of our Hawaii freedivers.
Yes.
And you dive with him too?
I dive with him.
Yeah.
Yes. Chris has been diving longer than I had, I think.
Really?
He is a very talented guy in many ways. But also he's very busy, so he doesn't get a lot of time to train Hawaii. He worked at energy labs, natural energy labs in Hawaii. He worked for the University of Hawaii in research facilities, and he has a very good passion towards diving and just competition in general. And he enjoys it, and he doesn't want to just mindlessly wanted to go deeper and hit numbers. He has a very good spirit.
He has a really nice personality. He's always smiling and he seems positive, and he's just enjoyable to be around. And I really like to see him. The first time I met him was last year at the Team World Championships. We sent a team to compete, which was really nice from the U.S. We don't always, depending upon if we can get enough people to go. We don't receive any financial support for our team, so the athletes have to try to gather the money through crowdfunding or from friends and family, and it can be rather expensive. That competition last year was in Kalamata, Greece. It was very nice. Jessie was there representing the Chinese team, but sometimes the finances and things can be difficult in freediving. Here's Chris, he's getting ready. He's got his coach positioning him on the line. A coach is allowed to help the athlete keep their position on the line up to the point where they submerge their airway.
Yeah, I think his coach is Annabelle,
It is
one of our
Annabelle.
Hawaiian diving legends.
Annabelle giving him some physical and emotional support at this moment, I'm sure. It's kind of reassuring to have a teammate there with you.
Yeah. In Hawaii, all of the free divers, we are like a big family. So Annabelle organizes us to train together every Sunday morning, and she's one of the leaders. And we have a couple other leaders in Hawaii, like Bill Graham's, Leo and Andy, and everybody get together on Sunday to train in the morning.
That's really
there
nice.
There goes Chris, and we call it the church, you know.
Oh,
This is
that's
our
your
routine
church,
every week.
yeah. That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice, and it certainly helps to have that camaraderie and group for support, you know, for the emotional, and have other people who do what you love, and have them and understand what you do and why you do it. Because in any time you're doing something that's a little bit unusual, and freediving for some is unusual, sometimes people just don't understand why we do this. So it's nice to have some other people that you can have to speak with and spend your time with that have the same passion.
Chris is doing a very nice free fall. He's going at good speed.
It's got a nice
He's
position
gonna make
there.
it.
Yep, coming up, it's almost there.
Yes, touchdown. Good job, Chris.
Very nice. We have one of our other judges, actually two of them, John Wright and Alexander Rusu, are over on the other side of us over here looking at one of the other monitors. They are watching these dives and looking for any violations that might occur. In this particular discipline, the most frequent one would be a pull or grab violation. You're not allowed to use the rope except within the 2-meter zone of the plate. So they keep an eye on that. If they see anything, we mark it on our paper, and in the afternoon they will review and make sure that all the judgments are as they should be. Here comes Chris.
He did a very good protocol. So let's see what the judge think about his bottom plate turnaround.
Nice job, Chris.
Good job. He will be very pleased with this dive.
That's great. That's wonderful. Over on the blue platform now we have Marc-Andre Pichet from Canada. He's announced a 65-meter dive in 2:10. His dive time, he will be starting in 4 minutes. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I'm sure glad that he's here. He's a really friendly guy. We see him around everywhere, and he seems to really be enjoying it. He's had a journalist here with him documenting his journey through this competition, and it's nice to have him representing Canada. It's great. Since we have a minute, I want to explain a little bit about Dive Eye. We've had some questions about it just from how the system works and where it came from and all of this. We have 4 engineers here that run the system. It's quite complicated. If you're here, you can see it. Right now we're on a fairly large flat boat that is a scuba diving boat, and this is where our system is set up. We have these engineers come from Poland, so they had to come all the way. They've been working on the system for several years to get this right. We have Marios, who is the film editor and videographer of the group. We have Victor, who sets up all the cameras. We have Gregory, who is the graphics man, who puts up all the things you see on the screen and monitors our feed and what we're doing here. And the leader of the team is Mikkel Biscat, and he is the person who actually drives the drone. The dive-eye itself, and they call her dive-eye, is a drone which is on a cable, and he maneuvers it going up and down the line following the divers, and all of this equipment that they had to be brought here from Poland. So
I read it on Facebook. It was 250 kilos. Is that? Does that sound like right
Yes,
to you? It's a lot of gear. Right?
yeah,
Can you imagine hauling all that luggage to the
all
airports?
that luggage, and then when they got here, I had to go with them with a credit card and buy a few more things as well. We got 2 big marine batteries and chargers and things that run this equipment, and but we have been more than pleased with the results. So it's really a great innovation for us, for not only for monitoring the safety, because we can see the divers, but also to be able to share this with all of you out there. So.
Yeah. Also, it makes judges' work a little bit easier
does.
because they can see the bottom plate footage
Yeah.
right there in real time.
Yeah, and it's actually more fair too, because we're other times we're kind of making trying to make a call, you're not really sure, and now we have a really nice view of everything, so it's good. And I think, as a diver, it must be a little bit more reassuring to you as well, knowing that we are right there watching you and can react quickly if we need to. Yeah. Mark's getting ready for his dive now. He's starting in 30 seconds. They're doing a countdown. We try to provide the diver with 2 minutes of a nice quiet time to relax and get themselves together to prepare for these dives. Freediving is a very mentally dependent endeavor. It's very important to try to relax as much as possible, because if you're too excited, it's very difficult to hold your breath. I guess that's kind of obvious, but... And there he goes. He's required to submerge his airways within 30 seconds of the start time, but he does not actually have to start the descent. So you saw him hesitate there for a minute, and that could be for him just to try to ease his mind, think about what he's doing, and he is not obligated to start right away, but he does have to get the airway in the water prior to the 30-second call. Mark is descending now.
Some athletes will take a few seconds on the surface just to have a calm, nice, relaxed start rather than rushing into it. I think that's what Mark did.
I think so too. It may seem kind of counterintuitive. You think, well, I'm going to do this dive and I got to get it over as quickly as possible because I'm holding my breath, but contrarily, actually, hurrying is not always a good idea.
No.
And why would you say that, Jessie?
Good morning, Anna.
Good morning. We have Anna von Bodecher joining us now from Germany.
And as the German champion freediver.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's Jennifer at the moment.
You guys are all really awesome. You're just better at each other. So it's good to have competition.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. Yeah, it's very nice.
So we are looking at Mark's dive, and we were talking about why sometimes divers take a few seconds to relax before they do the entry on the surface. I think if we rush into it, and if your entry didn't go well, not as planned, if something didn't feel comfortable, it just starts with a little bit of negative feeling, and that'll affect the whole dive potentially.
Absolutely.
What do you like to do?
Actually, once I put my face in the water to start, I also take a minute where I look down the line before I actually do the duck dive and the real start. It's like a couple of seconds maybe, just to orient myself also, because you haven't been looking down, so you're not oriented towards what's happening, so you need that moment to make a really smooth and clean entry.
That's exactly what Mark did on this dive, and we were trying to explain that to our viewers and what's going through your head at that moment, and it's just trying to gather your thoughts and compose yourself and get ready to go. There he comes. There he is.
Yeah, he looks very good. That's an easy dive.
We've got a little bit of swell here, so the diver needs to make sure that they've got a good grip on that line and keep themselves up.
Yeah.
He's looking very fresh though. Didn't seem to be any problem with that. Let's wait and see what the judges have to say. They seem to be discussing something. We got Junko Hitohama and Radoslav Gasha from Poland here on this particular line. They seem to have a little bit of a question about something. I'm not sure what. From their angle, they may have seen something that we couldn't see from here.
Just on my way out, I've met some people who've been viewing the live stream, and they
we
weren't
got a
sure
yellow
who
card.
are the judges and who are the safeties. So just for everybody, the yellow ones are the judges and the white ones are the safety divers.
And the right ones are media photographers.
Yeah. So why did he get a yellow card? What do you think?
He must have had a grab at the start or something like that. Yeah, there is you have to release the line if your hand is below the water. If it's above the water, it's fine, but if you let go, you're still holding on and it's under the water when you start, that's a grab penalty. That's only 5 points though. So overall it's you're always a little disappointed that you didn't do things exactly perfectly, but it is not a disaster at all.
No.
So Carla, if the athlete turns around and then their hand pushes the line, like if they didn't position it very well, you push the line on the water, and that's a penalty.
Yeah, that's a penalty.
There's various ways of disqualifying yourself or having penalty points, and for new divers, especially when you're new to competition, then you tend to have some fails because you just need to go through that process. With experience, it's actually quite easy to follow all those rules, and you don't really have any problem with that anymore because you do it automatically.
Yeah, I remember in one of my competitions at Vertical Blue, I got penalized for a grab penalty at the start, and one of our lovely judges, Lyndon Walbert, helped me. I went out that afternoon and she sat on the platform and I just practiced over and over again until I was absolutely, and she would tell me, good, no, good, yes, until I absolutely had it down so that I would not make that mistake again. And generally, if you're having some problem, you can find somebody who can help you and watch you and tell you what it is that you're doing right or wrong, and it just takes practice. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, that's important for us to actually practice when we train in competition rules if we do want to compete, because it's very unlikely that you're going to do something right in competition that you've been doing wrong in training all the time. So all of us tend to follow the same procedure really in our training dives.
Yeah, and one thing we haven't mentioned during our discussions here is a really good idea if you're just starting and you want to compete is to set the plate at a very shallow distance and practice picking up that tag.
Yeah.
And do it go down, and because you'll notice some variations in turns. Some people struggle a little bit, others are very smooth, and that's another thing. You don't want to get down there on your first dive and all of a sudden there's the plate and you don't know what to do. So
absolutely. Who's the next
Good
diver?
tip, Carla. We have Carlos Correa from Colombia coming on the white platform. He's about to dive.
His favorite discipline is no fins, but he's going to be doing this dive today with fin. He's one of our members of AIDA Colombia. They're getting their group together for full membership. We're looking forward to that.
Carlos is a very good cook. So prior to the competition, we had a small freediver getting together, and he was the chef for a lobster lasagna dish.
Oh, nice!
Very nice, and we definitely had fun. And then we also, enjoying the after training, getting together in the freediving community. Everybody kind of.
He started organizing his own depth competition in Santa Marta, Colombia, at his home, and he's had it 2 years in a row, and it's been very successful. He gets big sponsorship from the Coast Guard. So they have a huge Coast Guard boat with a lot of good medical, supervision, and he has a limit on it. It's sort of for entry-level freedivers. I think maximum 60 meters or something. But if you're from South America or Central America, get a hold of Carlos. And if you want to give it a try, this is a great opportunity for new people to learn how to compete.
I think it's been really nice at this World Championships, seeing so many people from South and Central America that normally don't make it all the way over to Europe.
He's coming towards the water.
There he is.
There we go. That was easy.
Turn.
Oh, that might have been a grab.
Yeah, that might
Yeah,
be. We'll have to
will
take a
be
look at that. You're only allowed one grab,
Yeah.
and it has to be within the candy cane. You can grab as many times as you want, but once you're out of that 2-meter zone from the plate, you are not allowed to use the line.
So what you will see now is that the judges, of course, on the surface couldn't have seen that.
No.
So it'll not reflect when they're judging right now.
That's
but
correct.
what happens later?
Yes, what happens is when we come back to shore, we review all the video information that we have, and we have 2 judges over here watching as we're going, and that we will have a mark, and I will actually mark it on my paper as well, so that we make sure to take a look on that, and then we will post. When I get back to shore, I post the preliminary. Oh, is he
bailed
pulling?
out on the dive.
Oh, he's pulling. All right, he decided to give up on this one.
Must
He's-
not feeling it in his legs.
No. So for pulling, once one starts to pull like that, that will be a red card. And he's made that choice by himself. So maybe he's saving himself for his no fins, which is his preferred
Sometimes
discipline.
also we can have cramps, especially if you're not really used to swimming with the monofin. It's something that your muscles need to get used to, so it's easy to get a cramp, and then that would be your natural way to bail.
Yeah. Seeming a little hypoxic as well today. Maybe he's feeling a little off. So. It doesn't really matter at this point, though, whether he does his protocol or not. He might just for his practicing, but he's already disqualified himself. I'm sure he's wanting to save energy for his no-fins dive.
So we're now going on to the blue platform. The next diver is from the US, Brian Allemeyer, 68-meter dive. And we've got quite a big US team as well here this year.
We do. We were, the United States was extremely excited to be having the World Championships, closer to us in our end of the world. And in order to encourage future events here, we wanted to put a lot of participants in here, because if we have one in our spot and we're always asking for this and then no one shows up, it doesn't give us a very good. We need to support it if we're here. So they were very excited, and we're really glad to see them all, because they're people we don't normally see in Europe when we're competing. So
That's right, because it's too expensive for them to travel all the way, and maybe especially for the divers who aren't fighting for medals.
Yes.
The very top level divers, of course, they travel around the world to go to the big competitions. That makes sense for them,
Yes.
but people who are maybe in the mid-range might not want to pay that much money to go to a competition.
Yeah, and they kind of feel like, well, they're not going to win, and do they really want to put all that money into it? And it's just the flight itself is the first thing.
Yeah.
Flights can be extremely expensive. You can find an inexpensive flight that may make you, make a better choice as to whether you want to go or not, but you just don't know how that's going to be.
So it's a sport where we don't really have sponsorship, or very, very little. A few athletes get a little bit lucky. Most people get some gear sponsorship.
Yes.
But sponsorship for money is very hard to come by, and so that makes it really prohibitively expensive for a lot of athletes to go to these big events.
That is one reason why we decided, AIDA International decided to engage Dive Eye to come to this competition, was we are hoping through exposure of this very exciting sport that more people will get on board and support us, AIDA in general, our competitions, and our competitors in their local area. If they see that this can promote their product or whatever it is, because we're going to be showing this all over the world, we're hoping maybe we can get some better sponsorship.
30 seconds before official top. So a boat just went by, and you can see the ocean just went a bit wavy, and that's because of the wave created by the passing speed boat. But let's see how Brian is able to relax through that little bit of disruption of his calm zone. So Brian has been doing so well this year. He actually recently learned free diving. He did a really awesome dive, 70 meters free immersion, a couple of days ago. And he's even newer to this discipline, constant weight, because he didn't have a monofin. And this thing is from his roommate and US teammate, Brandon Hendrickson. So he specifically said that he wanted the audience to know that he just started diving with a monofin last week. And now he is doing a 68-meter monofin dive. It's so
That's
impressive.
a very big jump. Yeah, that's
Yes,
really impressive.
he has been doing good depth. He's been going with bifins to similar depth. It's just the monofin's new to him, and he's so natural in the water and relaxed.
Look at
Yeah,
this,
it's nice.
very nice streamlining position, looking really relaxed.
He's already at 40 meters and he's moving along nicely.
Yes.
This is often a sort of critical point where, especially when we are new, it's all about the equalization. That's the limiting factor. The way back up is not really the problem. It's just getting down there that stops us at the start.
Here he is. We'll have to check that grab.
Yeah.
There he goes. Yeah, he had a pull a little bit early.
Looked like he might have just been outside of the zone.
Yeah, so we will mark that on our list, and the judges have already noted that as well. I know it seems like a picky thing, but it is an important rule because you are not allowed to use the rope and this and the no fins discipline.
Yeah. He did use his hand to facilitate the last equalization just before he pulled, so it might have been
It might have been that. We'll have to.
equalization.
Yeah, it's a little hard for us to see on our screen here. There's some glare, so we don't want to make wrong assumptions, and we apologize to Brian if we did. But here he is. I think no matter what the result is for his first attempt with the Monofin, I think that was very impressive. He's very
He's
strong.
super going on surface. Yeah.
You can see the platform moving up and down a little bit. That's because we have a little bit of this swell here today.
So shows his tag,
He
so
shows
that
his
was
tag.
easy.
And that's a white card. So,
Congrats, Brian.
congratulations. That was very nice, very nice. I mean, I'm sure he had to be a little bit nervous about that, being that he's new to the monofin, but he seemed to take to it well. We'll be switching over now to the white platform. Our next diver is Timothy Oemingen from Germany.
Tim
One of-
Oemingen, yeah, my fellow countryman. And what you might notice here is that he's announced 68 meters, where actually he did a 100-meter free immersion dive just the other day. So that's a very shallow depth. For
Well, the reason is he is going to be doing it no fins. He is going to be doing this dive as a practice dive for his no fins, which he wants to focus on in the next couple of days. So, according to the rules, if you want to compete with no fins in a with fin competition, you may, but the recorded result will go down in the category with fin, even if you have no fin on. So, but because no fins is more difficult than with fins, it is allowed to do that.
So basically he's just training because he has been focusing a lot on no fins discipline, and his national record has just been taken by his friend Stefan Rundig. They are battling each other back and forth, handing each other the records, and are good friends doing that. And he literally did about a week ago, did a 70-meter no fins dive. So Tim is just checking his depth here, getting ready for the men's start and the no fins discipline on Saturday.
That's correct. Yeah, and we have I think Dean Schaus, he was going to do the same thing. I'm not sure if he decided to or not. I don't see him on the list, but he had asked me if he could do a no fins dive as well. I think he decided not to. Maybe he doesn't want to get too tired. No fins is considered the most difficult discipline because it requires the most energy, because you have to use all your own power. You have to swim down, get into your free fall, and then swim all the way back up. And both of these two lovely ladies here, they're specialists in no fins. So
I definitely am not.
I don't think I'm
I
a
just
specialist
do it
either.
anyway.
I do like no fins a lot, where you feel you're in full contact with the water and you're not using any rope or fin as assistance. You can feel the water flow on your hands and on the bottom of your feet. That's nice.
But they will both be competing in that in the next ladies event, so you can look forward to seeing them.
It's a discipline that really favors the people who have been competitive swimmers in their background, because it's very much about technique, every little bit of energy that you can save by basically having good technique and moving yourself efficiently through the water makes a huge difference in this discipline. And that's where I, for example, totally fail, because I never really learned to swim very well, so I have zero technique. Yeah,
Me too.
so I just do it anyway.
Yes,
But
I like it.
definitely not in the most beautiful way.
I started as a no fins only diver. I didn't own a fin and just started with no fins because I was a swimmer, and I guess I did have an advantage in that we have already learned how to control the water through small body movements.
In fact,
and body
Carla here
position.
next to us, sorry to interrupt you, was actually a world record holder in breaststroke. So perfect.
No, butterfly.
And butterfly, there you go.
I was not a
Perfect for
breaststroke.
freediving.
My breaststroke is my worst stroke, by the way. But
Butterfly
I just-
still though, very
yeah,
good for
yeah, I
freediving.
was a butterflyer. Yeah. So actually, when I did put a fin on, it was very easy for me because I was used to that kick. So
Exactly.
Okay.
And the feel of the water.
Tim is about to start his
yeah,
dive.
yeah. Let's see how Tim does today. Tim is very young. He's one of our younger participants. He's in his mid-20s, and which for our sport is young. It's this is a sport that you're not so limited by your age, and so it's really nice for us to be able to still. We don't. Unlike swimming or track or something, the average is not 16 years old. So
It's
nice.
a little more like the long distance disciplines, like
Yeah.
say marathon, the triathlons,
Yeah.
and they are very, very require a lot of mental strength, mind strength, knowing yourself really well, and so it's a little bit similar to that.
And here goes Tim. You can see, first off, the most obvious thing is the difference in the speed. So since we've been watching these monofin dives, now you're seeing the no fins discipline, and this is a good example of what this is. It is like a modified breaststroke stroke. For swimmers, it would be the stroke that we call the underwater, the one we use when we come off the wall. And Tim has now entered into his free fall.
Yeah, and he's going at around 0.5 meters per second on average, a little bit faster now, which is actually not very fast, but that is also reflected by the fact that you don't go into the free fall with as much speed as you do in the other disciplines. So that carries on, that carries through the whole dive, that results in longer dive.
Tim's going to do an early turn. He's decided that's enough for him today. He's coming back up. Yes, it is quite a bit slower. William Trubridge, the world record holder in the no fins, 1:02 record that he did last year. The dive time was 4:13, I believe. So that just shows you on a 100-meter dive it takes over 4 minutes. So it does require a lot of energy conservation, and you have to have a really good technique in order not to work so hard. That was always a problem for me. I have never been able to relax. I swim the whole way. For me, I'm still a swimmer. I swim from point 1 to point 2 and back, and it's not good for this.
So here's the safety diver, and actually it's interesting because the safety divers, the deep safety diver meets us in around 30 meters. And when we women, for example, when I go to no fins, since I'm in around the mid-50s range, actually it's very nice to see the safety diver and you're all happy, but then you realize that you haven't even made it halfway yet. It's still a very long way to go.
And here he is. Sometimes the diver, when they're doing a training dive like this, even though it is in competition, they will maybe not bother to do the protocol or not really care because they don't care that this result is recorded. So if you see them maybe not do a protocol, it's only because they're only doing this for training. Yeah, that's a yellow card early turn for Tim on that dive.
So we're gonna jump now to some deeper divers, right? We're getting close to the main depth part of the men. Mm-hmm. And you might have noticed that, viewers might have noticed that we are sort of have like a pyramid. We're going from shallow to very deep, and then after the very deep divers, we're going back down to shallow. So why is that?
Well, that is a safety consideration because when we start in the morning, we like to see our safety divers get warmed up and not have to dive as deep on the first dives. They won't dive as deep, let's say in order to safety on a 40-meter dive as they would on a 100-meter dive. And so we want them to be nice and warmed up, but we also don't want them to be at the end of the day where they've gotten tired after going up and down for a couple of hours. So it just seems like safety reasons it's best to put those deepest dives right in the middle.
So you will often see variations in that. Sometimes it reflects the conditions that you have, the local conditions. So you might have places where you will get thermic winds pick up at around 11 or lunchtime, and it gets rougher. So you may have the deeper divers earlier in the morning just to be safer on the very, very deep dives.
Yes.
And so we tend to have various arrangements of the start list according to conditions and safety team.
And there is not a rule that says we have to do it a certain way. We try to do it the way that seems like it's best for that particular location. And for this one, with what we have here, we're going to have this swell. There's no idea whether it's going to get worse or better or anything, so we're just doing it in consideration of the energy level of the safeties.
Okay, next diver is also a Hawaiian diver, Daniel Koval. Dan is doing a 93-meter constant weight dive. This should be energy-wise, should be a very conservative dive for him. He has done 100-meter in training in Hawaii this year. He performs really consistently in training dives. Sometimes he get a little nervous in competitions and get caught up on equalization at depth. So I think if he gets to the bottom plate, I don't think there will be any problem for him to come back to the surface with his fin, because he is really good with monofin.
Yes, there's certainly an element of competing in the World Championships, which can be a little nerve-wracking for people who have not competed a lot. It's just the idea of it, and we've got Dive here, you're being presented to the world, and anytime you have any kind of added stress, it can make equalization more difficult.
Taking his final breath, cutting it quite close. He's announced a dive time of 2 minutes 40, and you'll see that also that's reflected in the depth, because the last time on that line, Brian Allemeyer had announced 1 minute 50. So, we're almost a minute longer, because now we're starting to get into the really deep range for the men.
And also there is a variation in the speed in which the diver chooses to go. We have some divers who are very fast and others who are quite slow. We'll have Stefan Thoreau coming up soon here, and he's a very fast diver. And you'll watch him, he will kick all the way down to the plate. So
it's like Speedy Gonzalez, he sprints down and up.
He does. He's very, very fast.
It's hard for the safety divers to keep up with him, actually.
Yes, he's very, very fast. And when he doesn't go fast, he did some experimenting at Vertical Blue. Things don't go well for him, so he chooses to move fast. That's his style.
So let's look at Dan's dive. He's doing a nice relaxed free fall at 60 now. Still 33 to go. So
at this point, what Anna and Jesse, what would you be thinking about, or trying not to think, or what's going on right now while you're just falling here waiting?
I would be paying attention to equalization.
Oh, and he has an early turn.
Oh, unfortunate.
Oh, that's quite a lot of meters off. Yeah, so that's exactly what we were just saying. Jesse was saying it's all about equalizing at that moment. So I would just try to think only about that, because that is the factor that will fail your dive if you mess it up at this point.
Yeah, we were explaining the other day about equalization, what that is exactly. That's popping your ears, just like you do when you are on an airplane and you feel that going. And sometimes if you have any kind of congestion, they'll get stuck. It's very uncomfortable, but at the depths that we are doing in this competition, it can be quite difficult because you don't have much air that you can access. So there is a very complex set of techniques that we must go to in order to be able to pop our ears at these depths.
Yeah, he'll be disappointed about that.
Yeah.
That's really frustrating, especially if you've been doing 100-meter dives in training. To come up this short is always really annoying for us in competition.
It happens.
Yeah, it
It
does.
does happen. It happens to even the best divers. You know, the one ear will get stuck or something, and it can be anything: allergies, nerves, sinus problems. There's a lot of reasons that it can happen.
Yeah, still really beautiful dive to
Yeah.
watch then.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah.
nice until he turned. It was looking great.
Absolutely, he was looking really good. It's of course hard because you train for a long time for this one dive, and it's always frustrating for any sport, in any sport, anywhere. Frustrating not to be able to show yourself at your best.
That's one thing that is more difficult in the World Championships. In this particular one, you only get one dive. You get one shot at it. So that also makes you more nervous too, knowing I've only got this one chance. In some of our other competitions, you may have several chances. So if you miss one, you can try again. But in this one, there's no opportunity for that. It's very unfortunate. So it's just the way this is set up. But next, over on the white platform, we have another Hawaii diver,
Yes,
Kurt
another one.
Chambers. Yes, he is the current U.S. men's record holder in this discipline at 100 meters, I believe, or 101. And Kurt is getting ready to go in that very colorful red suit.
Yeah, and he actually had a really good dive in the free immersion discipline, and just very unfortunately got disqualified on a technicality. That wasn't at all his fault, and but that's the rules. And so this time he'll really be wanting to get this dive right, because he actually is in good shape and ready for it.
Yeah, the technicality was something that had nothing to do with his diving, and it's a rule that your coach is not allowed to leave the surface when you are doing your dive, and his girlfriend Katie unfortunately wasn't aware of that, and she went down, and even if you're going to take a picture or anything, that is not allowed, and he was disqualified. So
That was just an
Why is
unfortunate
this
accident.
rule set up? Carla, can you explain?
it's a really old, it's a long-standing rule that came about a long time ago, and there's several reasons for it. There was a discussion on Facebook about it, and Grant Graves, one of our most experienced judges, was answering to that. One of them is that we don't want the person diving down and giving signals, coaching. The other one is that we don't want them in the competition zone in the way. We also had a risk of a coach that dove down and blacked out at one point. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. They just want the coach. It just makes it more complicated. So in order to make it easier, they made this rule.
Make it more fair, make everything safer.
As safer especially is an issue, because if the coach swims down out of the view of anybody, he's also at risk, because we have our rule that you never dive without anybody watching you, and so we're trying to avoid that, and that's why this rule is in place. So he'll be going for this dive, and it should be an easy dive for him. He's very strong, he's ready, and I'm sure he's going to have a really good dive this morning.
Kurt trains a lot, and he really dedicates his time to freediving training. So let's hope he can get a good dive today.
He's had a little bit of trouble in the Caribbean Cup. Things weren't going as well as he had hoped. It may have just been jet lag or something like that, but let's hope that today he's at full strength and able to do a good dive.
He's wearing a bright red suit from a fairly new for us manufacturer called Merman, and that's really nice for us to see more wetsuit manufacturers coming in and providing us with freediving equipment to choose from around the world.
Yeah, we were commenting yesterday when Alexei had joined us. He has been making a lot of new products, and as a world record holder, he has a pretty good vision of what he thinks is good equipment, and he has just gotten into the wetsuit business. So it'll be interesting to see what he comes out with. Katja has had some influence in him, and she's more concerned about how they look rather than the function, but we should have some nice options coming from Alexei too.
I really like how fluid his kicks have been coming down.
He looks really like a natural. You can tell he's from Hawaii, he spends his life in the water, and that's very obvious on these divers. It's like they're diving with the sea rather than fighting against it.
And they have really nice warm water there too, and a lot of beautiful wildlife, and he's quite the photographer with dolphins, whales, other divers, and I know when you train you often hear whales, and they're beautiful.
And the best diving is on the big island of Hawaii, on the Kona side, where all of these Hawaiian freedivers, including myself, live and train. We do have very good animal encounters there.
Only got 10 meters left to go, so soon he'll be ready for his turn. Now you can see that he's starting to.
there he is.
Oh, that surprised him. So
But
that was
he's clearly
easy.
within the candy cane. You could see it very clearly there when he grabbed it.
Now he's settled back into the relaxed kicking.
Maybe his alarm didn't go off and seemed to be surprised when he came to the plate. He was feeling so good he thought he had more to go. So we do have these gauges. Like you can see I have a whole bunch on my arm here. These are a couple of extra official gauges, my own gauge, and we set them so that we know when we're getting near to the plate. It makes a little dinging noise. But sometimes you don't hear it. You know, and that's why some divers like to keep a gauge up in their hood right next to their ear so they don't miss it.
And when the battery on the dive computer is low, sometimes the alarm can malfunction.
Yeah,
And
that's not good.
very, unfortunate.
Yeah, that can really make a mess of your dive. And we do use these alarm triggers to help us during certain stages of the dive, especially to get ready for the turn at the bottom. So safety divers are there. He's not got far to go. This looks like a very easy dive
It looks
for him.
very nice, very nice. It's got a nice kick style here. Safeties are keeping a very close eye on him,
Okay.
as they always do.
About to surface, let's see what happens.
And there he is. Most important thing is to get in those recovery breaths right at the beginning.
Oh, he forgot his nose clip. Alright. So looks like there was a small hiccup during the service protocol. But let's see if he managed to save that.
Yeah, we can't tell from here.
Yes.
And we couldn't hear
that
him.
we
So.
couldn't know. I heard somebody's shot nose clip, so
Yeah.
hopefully he managed
Sometimes
to
the
remove it.
diver will start to do the protocol before they remove the nose clip. They forget it's there. We're so used to feeling it, we don't notice it, which I know sounds very odd to some of you. Looks like it was there. Nice dive for Kurt.
Congrats, Kurt. Well
Yeah,
deserved.
after the unlucky dive a couple of days ago,
Yeah,
it's
so
very nice to
that's
see him
nice,
here
yeah.
doing a really clean and strong
Yeah.
performance.
So coming up on the blue platform, we have Arnaud Giraud of France. He's announced 100 meters in a dive time of 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I really don't know a whole lot about him. Anna, do you know him from training?
No, I don't know him very well. I think he's fairly new to the sort of competition scene. And as you can see here, that's our first 100 meter of the diver of the
is.
day. And we have several of the men going to beyond the 100 meters. This has suddenly opened up this field of the 100 meter divers, very suddenly opened up.
Yes.
In around 2011, it started that a whole host of them suddenly cracked that depth, which had been something that was a bit of a sort of separating the crowd, let's say, barrier for quite a while. And now really talented guys who are able to equalize well can get there pretty
Get
quickly.
there. Yeah, you know, we had I remember when I was first starting, we had kind of an exclusive 100 meter club. There was only a few members in it.
Yeah.
And now that no longer exists. There's quite a few, and it is still that number though that I think that is mentally hard for some people to break. It's just the sound of it, you know, that. And for the men especially, it's something that they really want to try to attain. And you know, we always try to say that, you know, it's not about the numbers, but it is. You know, in some ways it is. So,
Yeah, it's hard to keep that out of your head
It
sometimes,
is.
and you have to rein in your ego because really, why would a 100 meter dive be any more important than an 88 meter dive? And there's not really much difference to it. But in our minds there is, and that can also be a danger because people tend to push for it when they're maybe not ready yet. And you might have seen that Kate Middleton, for example, announced 98 yesterday.
Yes.
Although she's done that dive around 3 times now, and you really might have thought that she would go for the 100 meter, but actually she thought she wasn't quite ready yet for it, and she wants to give herself the time and not be stupid and only just announce it because she needs that number. And I think that's very important. As divers, we need to look after ourselves and make sure that we have a slow progression and keeping those ego factors at bay.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the U.S., it's kind of interesting. You know, we're still on the imperial system. I don't know why, but we are, and so we don't use meters. We use feet and yards. And in the courses that they teach in the U.S., it's always kind of interesting. They'll be announcing how many 100-foot divers they have which means basically about 30 some meters. But they always are using that number. They just like that nice round
it
number,
sounds good.
even though it's 30 meters, but it's 100 feet. And I always try to say, please, let's get with the rest of the world and start using meters.
So what would you say in the US in feet is the real barrier for the men? Would that then be the 300 feet that would reflect
Yeah,
the
yeah,
more
about
roughly
92
the 100
92
would be,
meters.
Yeah, 92 meters is the 300
Yeah,
feet.
so that would be the 300 feet equivalent.
Yeah.
So there you go. Actually, that would reflect into 92 meters, and maybe the guys would push as much for
Yeah.
those 300 feet, just because the number sounds good.
Good.
And
yeah.
this is really
yeah.
something we have to watch ourselves with as
Yeah.
freedivers, because
yeah.
you can get yourself into trouble
You can.
if you try to absolutely beat your head against a number like that.
I was thinking maybe we should switch to fathoms or using some other sort of a marine term. I think what William Trubridge had that one dive, it was the hectometers that he was using, and there's all different ways to say it, but I'm sure that Jessie can confirm that every time she does a record in the U.S., a reporter or somebody will say, well, how many feet is that?
That's right. So we've just been hit by quite some big waves, and it makes things a little bit difficult for the diver on the surface who's trying to breathe up.
It does.
Sometimes it can even be that bad that you are actually being submerged in
Yes.
between breaths or during your breath, and you really have to
Swallowing
time your breath to the waves, and that's tricky, especially on your final breath, which is longer than the waves are. So I've had it that I've had to hold my breath, take half of the final breath, hold my breath, take the rest of the final breath, hold my breath, pack a bit, hold my breath, because you're constantly just being submerged. So all these things are things you have to deal with in a World Championship. You have no choice. And it's sometimes hard for people who have very good training conditions at home and never get exposed to this kind of weather, and then it hits you in competition.
And this particular race right now is not weather. That was a boat traffic. That was a wake from a boat going by. And today is cruise boat day here, and because of that there's an influx of thousands of tourists, up to 4,000 come in at a time, and so there's all different tour boats running back and forth, and even though we try to tell them not to come our direction, they still will go by on their way for shark viewing or whatever it is they're doing. So that's what this bigger swell that comes through is from boat traffic, and it's unfortunate, but it can really make it difficult.
Right.
So we're waiting now for Arnaud to go. Johnny Sunex is sliding in here with us. I'm going to move over and let Johnny sit down, and he can make some comments on the men, since he is familiar with their dive technique and style. And Johnny, welcome. Good morning.
Thank you, Carla. Good morning, everyone. Tuning in from back home. Morning, Anna. Morning, Jessie.
Good morning, Johnny.
Good morning, AIDA New Zealand.
Yeah.
Cool. So, how far out are we from?
We're just watching Arnaud Gerard,
Joao? Yeah.
from France, and it's our first 100-meter diver of the day. He's just about to start. He's got 10 seconds left to go.
Okay. So, what do we know about Arnold? I believe he's a very young and a very deep diver.
That's right. I've heard that he's been progressing really well, but doing it quite conservatively and very strong. Like not really any failed dives, and that's looking really good for him here. So hopefully he'll manage to make this 100-meter dive in a World Championship. That's a big deal for a new diver, especially.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so he's now underway. Starts his descent and starts with his arms down, but now he's bringing them up. Okay, so seems to be kicking fairly gently, quite a small amplitude. Spinning down past 30 meters, and he brings his arms down and he's settling into his free fall. So by 35 meters, I think we'll see the majority of the athletes starting their free fall.
Yeah, roughly around there, right? With some exceptions, like Stefan, who likes to swim all the way to the bottom, but usually around 30. Most people.
Exactly. So a general rule of thumb for those of you at home, most athletes will start their free fall about 1/3 of the way into their dive.
Sinking at around a meter per second, a little bit faster even, which is a good speed for the men.
And he has a beautiful streamlining. He's a very lean freediver.
He's looking really comfortable here.
He's got his arms tucked in. he's swimming with a Monofin too, for the looks of things.
Yeah, like a lot of us actually. There aren't many fin manufacturers for us, so.
Oh, he's gone all the way to the plate. He's gone a little bit deeper than he needed
the
to.
bottom plate.
So equalization obviously isn't an issue for him.
It's obviously no problem. He was super relaxed and literally surprised to be there.
Yeah, so he started with his arms down and now bringing them up, and now he's into a more streamlined position.
This is looking like a very easy dive for him.
I saw a dive of his on the dive eye from the Nice Abyss competition,
Oh yeah,
where he
that's
did
right.
95 meters. So
So
he'll be
is
now
doing good.
familiar with diving with the dive eye.
yeah, which is also something we have to get used to a little bit. Just to have something down there that you see traveling with you all the way. It's quite strange, especially on the way down.
Yeah, from what was quite a private and intimate moment, and now it's shared with the world.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so diver inside already at 45 meters, so it must be incredible viz again today. Coming up past 40, looking strong, continuing the same rhythm. He's down with the first safety who's got the scooter.
That's the deepest safety diver, and then the next one is meeting us at 30. The first one who's without scooter.
Okay, he's now with 3 safety divers. Okay, they're following up fairly comfortably. He's not going too fast. Just at a nice, steady, comfortable speed. Now approaching 3 minutes, and he's up above 10 meters.
This is the moment where we really get ready already in our minds for the surface protocol.
He breaks the surface. He looks good. And just a momentary dip.
Yeah.
And he actually gave his SP facing away from the judges.
Yeah, we had that already a couple of days ago, unfortunately, as a disqualification. Combined with the small airway dip, this is most likely going to be a red card, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, a nice dive by Arnold, but I can't see him getting a white card out of this.
No. So there's the dive itself, you know, until you've gone through the whole process at the surface, you're not done. No matter whether you made it all the way to the bottom, you still have to be clear and conscious and very alert at the surface.
Yeah, and
That
with
is
the
our
surface
rule
protocol, we're
currently.
proving that the
Exactly.
person is cognitive.
Yeah.
You know, they've got control of their mind,
Yeah.
their speech, and their bodies.
Yeah, we don't want them to just be barely surviving the dive. We want them to be clear-headed when they reach the surface.
Exactly, and it's much nicer to see as well than when somebody arrives at the surface and they're very much on the edge and, you know, could go either way.
Jessie Lou has left us. She decided to take a little dip in the water. I will say it's more pleasant being in the water. It's quite warm out here.
It
And
is quite warm, and it's a
Yeah.
little bit lumpy today.
Yep, so she decided to get in the water, and so I'm back here for a few minutes. We've got Timmy from Germany on deck here. Timmy, tell us a little about what you were doing today.
It's no offense there, right?
Well, yeah. I was explaining to them the rule regarding that on how a person can do a no-fins dive on a constant weight dive and as in your case, do a training dive, practice dive, or whatever it is they want to
Exactly.
do. So.
I mean, it's the best conditions, right? It's you have a competition, you have World Championship, and then you're trying
safety.
something. So
Yeah.
you go for something, and it was a reference dive for the Northern State, basically. So
How
I
did
just
it go?
wanted to see.
Was it good?
No,
No?
Yeah, we were watching him do a little early turn. Other than that, it looked easy and relaxed.
yeah, it was the same like yesterday in training. I didn't feel so good mentally. Like still, I think I digest the blackout on the first day a little bit. So it's it's something I still need to figure out a little bit. So, but it's good to do this, and now I have 2 days off, and then I will do the Monofins. So yeah.
Coming up on the white platform now, we have Stéphane Toureau from France. He's announced 101 meters and a dive time of 2:20. As Anna was saying earlier, he is our speediest diver, and I think you will all find this very enjoyable to watch this dive and see how fast Stéphane goes.
Yeah, it's really quite spectacular. I think he's the only guy in the world at the moment who's literally swimming all the way down to beyond 100 meters and back up again.
So yeah, whilst it might be a faster performance it does mean that he's working a lot harder than the other guys.
But that's the style that works for him. He tried slowing down at vertical blue and it didn't work well at all for him, so he decided to go back to his normal way. And let's see how he does here. He's starting those kicks.
Okay, so the diver is going to have to be, the drivers are going to be on their toes to keep up with him today.
Yeah, Michael will be moving quickly here, keeping dive eye up with Stefan. Look at that lovely line.
Yeah, it's a beautiful technique
Isn't
he
that
has.
beautiful?
You see very
Remy
little
Comer.
movement from the upper
Look at that, and
body.
he's going at 1 point, he's 2 meters a second almost, which is extremely fast compared to where most people would be now in their free fall going at around 1 meter a second.
In France, we call him Stéphane the Torpedo.
We have Remy de Bern joining us now. He's here coaching the French team. He's one of our top competitors. Nice to see you, Remy. And see Timmy move over just a tad. Let's see if we can get Remy in the picture. We always enjoy watching Stefan. He's a very dynamic athlete in constant rate.
Okay, he's already at the bottom.
Hello, everybody.
1 minute and 10 seconds. Fairly smooth with the placing of the tag, and now he starts his ascent.
Maybe I can comment in French while you do in English.
Please.
Sure, please do.
Donc Stéphane, apnéiste super rapide, le plus rapide de l'équipe de France, qui vient donc d'atteindre sa profondeur cible et qui maintenant remonte à en général 1 mètre, 1 mètre et demi par seconde contre 1 mètre ou un peu moins pour la plupart des monopalmistes. Stéphane, 31 ans, en multiples sélections équipe de France depuis des années. Très belle technique. C'est une profondeur qu'il a répétée de nombreuses fois ici à Kalamata. Avec succès pour s'acclimater. Donc une annonce très conservatrice. En embuscade pour le podium. Please feel free to comment in English.
Alright, he's now with safety. He's up above 15 meters, still looking strong. He's going to start to allow positive buoyancy take effect.
Voilà, il ralentit maintenant pour économiser ses efforts alors que la flottabilité,
He's allowing himself to float
il est
up.
encore très frais, on vient de voir au mouvement de sa main qui reste puissant et précis. Marion Chavannes également de l'équipe de France, le coach, à la sortie pour l'aider. Oh, il a l'air frais, il a l'air très bien. Oh, ça c'est propre, bravo Stéphane. Allez, on continue de respirer, l'hypoxie peut encore frapper maintenant. Voilà, super, c'était une magnifique plongée tout en maîtrise.
Yeah, looking really strong there on the surface, very nice protocol, no doubt about that.
Il attend son carton qui devrait être blanc. Les juges se concertent. Ah, il n'a pas pris le tag.
Oh,
No tag.
lost the tag.
No tag.
Okay, guys, I'm going to excuse
Il dit
myself.
qu'il a vu les tags mais il n'a pas pris le temps de les prendre.
Alright, good.
C'est donc un carton jaune et probablement... How much is the penalty for the tag? 1 point?
1 point.
Donc c'est 1 point de moins. Pour une plongée à 101 mètres, il devrait remporter 100 points.
No, and that's a very small thing. The most important thing is to get up to the surface and
Yeah.
do that protocol. 1 point, overall isn't going to make a lot of difference.
Tiny difference.
I'm not sure, did he lost the tag on the way? Or
He said he saw it floating.
I think he didn't took it.
So.
It's been too much of a rocket. He saw them but no time to catch them.
Okay, maybe. Yeah.
It was a beautiful dive, though, nonetheless. It was very, very pretty. And that, to me, is a successful dive, tag or no.
Yeah, that's a fantastic dive. Having the tag is really very important if you're, for example, going for a national record,
Yes.
because then it must be a white
It
card
is
for it to be
required.
valid. Anything else, you count the points and you will make your mark in the final result list of the World Championships regardless.
We've also sometimes seen dives where divers unconscious they didn't take the tag because they just didn't want to spend more time and they came up and instead took the points.
Yeah, so who do we have now, Anna, on the blue platform?
So now we're gonna have Morgan actually. So
Yeah.
it's
Good, we'll
back-to-back French guys.
So Remy, if
So
you
we'll
would
have
continue,
Remy,
please, and give us French commentary,
Sure.
it would be much appreciated.
And tell us a little bit about Morgan. He's one of your longest members of the French team.
Yeah, sure. Morgan is one of the freedivers I've been freediving with since I started competition. So it's back in 2011 when I was safety freediver for the World Championships. Morgan is 39 years old, so he announced it was his last World Championship this year.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's disappointing.
Yeah,
Maybe we can convince him otherwise.
yeah, you can try. Morgan, his key discipline for this championship will be constant weight, no fin. But he trained also for the fin, so this is why his maximum is at 106 meters, I think, something like that. So he's been quite conservative also with his announce.
He's an absolutely elegant diver. That's
Yeah.
how I would describe him.
Yeah.
Elegant. We call him Mr. Perfect when he's
Yeah.
at Vertical Blue.
That's back from 2012.
Yes, yes.
We had Mr. Perfect, Mr. Smooth, and Mr. Dreamy.
Who was Mr. Dreamy?
It was me. Because I was struggling with narcosis at the surface. Yeah, he has a very sharp, precise, and powerful technique in constant weight, no fin, but also in constant weight, of course. No fin, he can dive to 90 meters, so 101 with a fin. Let's see, but should be a very controlled dive.
You know his PB in constant weight?
In constant weight, it's 105 or 6, I don't remember.
So he will be interesting to watch, especially on the final day here at the World Championships, which is Saturday. That's the no fins day for the men, and that's always one of the most exciting days actually. And there
Yeah.
we will really, you'll be able to appreciate Morgan as one of the people with the best technique in this discipline,
Yeah.
and really spectacular to watch actually.
Yeah, and with no fin, anything can happen.
Anything can happen, as it
This-
has in the last World Championships. The two top favorites, William Trubridge and Alexei Molchanov, and Morgan, actually both failed their dives, which
Yeah.
allowed Alexei to be the winner, which was a complete surprise. So
Yeah.
one never knows.
Yeah, because you have so few margin left because you're only working with your tiny muscles. Well, not as tiny for everybody, but still tiny compared to a fin. So as soon as there's the slightest current or like unfavorable conditions, then we start seeing athletes in difficulty. So anything can happen with this discipline. But anyway, today is the constant weight with fins day. So for now, Morgan is laying on his back.
Yeah, he's breathing up. He's got not long to go until he starts, and it's the first diver of the day that is going deeper than 100 meters with 101. Actually, to Stefan also. So the same announcement from Stefan and Morgan.
Donc Morgan a annoncé 101 mètres, la même profondeur que Stéphane Toureau. Tous les deux ne jouent pas directement le podium, mais on ne sait jamais, en fonction de ce qui peut se passer par la suite. Ils peuvent avoir une chance, donc ça met toujours un petit peu de pression. Morgan est en train de se préparer à sa plongée sur le dos, en train de mettre son esprit le plus au repos possible, probablement en train de visualiser les étapes clés de sa plongée, visualiser des images positives, le tag au fond, le protocole de surface. Il lui reste 1 minute avant de partir. Avec 101 mètres pour annoncer pour un max à 105, il est conservateur sur cette épreuve qui n'est pas son épreuve la plus importante. Il était au coude à coude avec Stéphane, mais Stéphane n'ayant pas récupéré le tag au fond, ça devrait lui coûter 1 point. Donc, voyons ce qui va se passer.
And you will see again here the difference in speed that we were just talking about, with Stefan having announced a dive time of 2:20 and Morgan's dive time is expected to be around 2:55, so that's 35 seconds difference in,
That's
in
right,
the dive time.
which is a huge difference.
Huge, yeah.
On va voir une différence de technique énorme entre Stéphane et Morgan. Stéphane a annoncé un temps de plongée de 2,25. Morgan, 2,55, 30 secondes de différence entre les deux. C'est énorme sur une plongée à cette profondeur-là.
Maybe important to know for our viewers that the dive time does not reflect in how the dive is judged. It's just there to know for the safety divers when to expect you back. So you can take as long as you like, just as long as you get there and get back up again.
Voilà. Effectivement, le temps de plongée n'a aucune conséquence sur la façon dont est jugée la performance en termes de points.
C'est simplement là pour aider les apnéistes de sécurité à se coordonner pour être au rendez-vous au bon moment. Allez, Morgan est parti. Deuxième kick, troisième kick, quatrième, cinquième, sixième. Il est déjà à une quinzaine de mètres. Septième kick, 8, 9, 10 kicks, 20 mètres. Très belle technique. On voit qu'il ne plie quasiment pas les genoux. Une belle ondulation qui part depuis le sternum. Et il entre en position de chute libre avec quelques kicks supplémentaires. Il a 40 mètres. Il a déjà pris son mouthfeel. Et maintenant 50 mètres. Morgan donc continue de palmer très profond dans une position plus favorable au relâchement qu'à l'hydrodynamisme pour protéger son mouthfeel le plus possible. Il devrait totalement s'immobiliser, voilà, dès maintenant.
So he also swims very deep. He's sort of kept kicking until 60 meters. That's quite unusual. Most people you will see stop finning at around 30 to 40 meters.
Yeah, that's right. Effectivement, il a continué de palmer jusque très très profond. La plupart des apnéistes s'arrêtent de palmer entre 30 et 40 mètres. Il a palmé jusqu'à 60 mètres, favorisant donc la vitesse de plongée, même si pour autant il reste quand même beaucoup plus lent que Stéphane, qui est vraiment un phénomène sur ce point-là. 100 mètres.
And he's at the plate. That was
Il est
very
arrivé au
easy
fond.
on the equalization.
C'est vraiment une bonne nouvelle pour Morgan qui, sur ses précédentes plongées, avait eu quelques difficultés avec la compensation.
It's very good that he didn't get irritated by the banana boat.
Yes, that's as I was saying. It's a cruise boat day, so we've got a lot of boat traffic out here, which is causing more boat wake. The banana boat went by and just tossed things up for us.
Because underwater you can hear the engine very, very loud, and especially on the way down for the equalization you need to relax, and sometimes it can really bother you.
On peut voir Morgan, donc, qui en est bientôt à la moitié de sa remontée, qui a fait les 3/4 de sa plongée, mais le dernier quart va être le plus difficile. On peut voir la fatigue qui s'installe. Il a ralenti un petit peu ses mouvements, il fléchit un petit peu plus les genoux. Et ça, c'est juste une fatigue musculaire. Au niveau hypoxique, on a tout à fait confiance sur au niveau oxygène, sur le fait que Morgan arrive à compléter cette plongée avec facilité.
So he's not far from the surface. He's just got a little bit more, well, around 25 meters left to go. You can see how it's getting light at the top. That's because the sun is hitting the surface, and he's nearly there. The first photographer is with him, and now it's all going to be about how he manages the surface protocol.
Ok, c'est la fin de la plongée pour Morgan. On voit qu'il cherche vraiment à économiser les dernières parcelles d'oxygène, à faire travailler la flottabilité positive proche de la surface. Il s'accroche en sécurité. Oh, il est bien. Il est très bien. Il a sécurisé son tag. Il fait un protocole très propre, très calme. Un protocole à la Mr. Perfect. Very clean surface protocol for Morgan. Completely controlled.
Yeah, that looked very good. Now we have that. It was very fast, so now we have a few seconds to wait. It's always a little bit tense.
Bravo Morgan. Superbe.
Very strong guy.
And again, Mr. Perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Perfect really deserves this.
Well, that was the deepest
Nickname.
successful dive of the day so far. It was really, really nice.
Timmy, will you move out? We're going to have Stefan join us. So Timmy. That was a beautiful dive.
Really nice dive.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and that's great.
Stéphane, si tu veux, tu peux venir
Yeah, I'm gonna-
t'asseoir à
we're gonna
côté
have
de moi
Stefan-
pour,
we're gonna have
pour
Stefan
commenter ta
come
plongée.
now, and he can, and also Remy, maybe you can ask him some questions in French for our
Yeah,
French
sure.
viewers.
You interview Stefan.
Yeah, you interview. It'd be nice for our French viewers too. For those of
Nous
you
attendons
who
que
are
Stéphane nous rejoigne devant la
wondering
caméra
about our-
et puis on va lui demander de commenter sa plongée.
Please sit down, Stefan. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let us know a little bit about what happened to that tag.
Yeah, I'm too fast.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est
I'm
passé
too
avec
fast.
ce tag, Stéphane?
Bah, en français ou en anglais?
En français,
Ça
we're
va,
gonna
en
translate.
Non,
français.
en
Yeah, I
français, comme ça, je pense qu'il y en a qui seront contents d'ailleurs. Ouais, bah du coup, je vais très vite et généralement, je le tiens bien. Et là, avec la vitesse, il y a eu du grip.
Ah, donc
Et,
tu l'avais attrapé.
ouais, je l'avais en main et avec la vitesse, pouf, il est parti. Du coup, bah, j'ai pas pu le récupérer. Et, voilà.
Okay. So Stefan is so fast, he got the tag, he actually grabbed it, he put it in between his two hands, but with the speed, the tag just went away. And guess why? He didn't feel comfortable stopping and trying to catch it back before coming up to the surface.
You wouldn't want to break the rhythm of the dive in that way,
No.
especially for just 1 point.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
not really worth it.
Excuse me just a minute. We have Extreme Sports Channel now joining us. We're live streaming and we'd like to tell you what we're doing here. This is the AIDA International Deaf World Championships coming to you live from Roatan, Honduras. Today's event is men's constant weight. This is the deepest of the disciplines we have in this competition. It's men diving with a fin. Our maximum depth today will be 126 meters, attempted by 2 different men. We are now coming up on our next diver, Anna, who is...
Yeah, this is actually Stig Pryds from Denmark, and this is very interesting. He's now going for 103 meters. He's pulled back a little bit. He did 104 in training here recently, and it was very easy. But that 1 meter difference that you make it easier for yourself, mentally can actually help you. So he had an early turn in free immersion day, which he was very frustrated about. So he's just given himself that little bit of room for his mind, and we're really rooting for him. He's my housemate. We're training together, so I really hope that he's going to make this dive successfully. And he actually has Johnny, our co-commentator, as his coach. He just jumped in the water to help Stig out.
So excuse me, let's get back to Stefan and Remy again. I'm sorry, but they just tuned in, so I had to break in. This is exciting. We have 2 million viewers on the Extreme Sports Channel, so I want to make so let's greet them and give a little word to them, Stefan, please.
I commented the dive, huh?
Or about yourself, whatever you'd like to say.
Okay.
I think you had the fastest dive of the whole competition. And probably one of the fastest dives in the world. I don't know, Carla, your history of freediving.
Yes.
What do you feel? 225 to reach 101 meters.
That's our Speedy Gonzalez.
But when I begin the competition, normally
early turn for Stig.
Again.
Equalization issue for
sure.
sure.
Very frustrated about that. He's been fighting with this. And it's really upsetting because he had this easy dive in training, but that's how it goes.
So maybe we can explain for the viewers that when we go down in the water, the airspace is compressed, and we need to compensate for this.
It's the depth of the thermocline. The thermocline is very soft, but maybe it's.
So we call this equalizing. We need to add some air in the middle ear, and it's a very delicate process, very technical, and it can be disrupted by any distraction. And there's a slight thermocline here in Roatan, really slight, like 1 degree left from 60 meters. And sometimes it's enough to disturb freedivers. So probably this is why Stig did not manage to equalize his middle ear.
So that's a real shame.
Once this happens, there's no fix. You have to turn, otherwise it's too much pain in the ear.
Yeah, you would risk to actually break your eardrums if you went on. So this is the moment where you will see freedivers turn before they reach the bottom. This doesn't mean that he's disqualified. He will still get points for this dive.
But with so much penalty, because he will lose points between the targeted depth and the realized depth. That's for sure in the ranking.
Yes, that will throw him back, and they'll be. That's always very frustrating because you know you're strong, you know you've got a dive, and if you just can't realize your performance in the World Championship when it counts, that is frustrating because of course everybody wants to be at their best here in this competition.
We can see that he has a very nice wetsuit with Stephen Keenan written in the back. All the people who, will understand the glimpse.
It happens. It's just frustrating. He competes a lot, though. He's one of our most active competitors. But sometimes it just doesn't work for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So this means that Morgan is still with 101, the deepest dive of the day so far.
And Stefan went only 1 point behind, only because he lost his tag. So that's very close. That's great news for the French team.
Now coming the deepest dive, so the next 30 minutes will be outstandingly interesting.
Yes, all the maximum depth is coming up. We have Adam Stern from Australia coming next. He's announced a dive of 104. Actually, that is also giving himself a little bit of leeway because he's actually done more than this in training. He's done a 106, but he said that the dive didn't feel very strong, and so he felt very strong nitrogen narcosis. We freedivers feel this when we get really deep, so for the guys it's definitely an issue when they get to around 100 meters, and it disrupted his 106 meter dive, so he's announced 104 just to be a little bit safe and be sure to have a good performance here.
I think it's a good decision with the extra stress that a competition day puts. It's good to keep some margin.
Yeah, it's something that I would guess, Stefan, like if you're in a competition on this level, you're not going to want to try a personal best for most people.
Yeah, and also this competition is more difficult because some people train in the cold water.
Yes.
And for people train in the hot weather, usually maybe Philippines and everything, it's better. But me, I need maybe 2 weeks more to train
To get used
to adapt at 30 degrees because the thermocline is at 70 meters. And from 0 at 70 at 0, it's 140 meters in 30 degrees. And the vasoconstriction is it's huge, and hypoxia is quicker.
Your body reacts differently. Our bodies react very strongly to the different elements of the dive, including temperature of the water, and so on. And that actually you need to acclimatize to. To these different conditions, and you need to have that reflected in your announcements as well.
For the people, when the limit is hypoxia, is a more difficult condition. But if your limit is just to equalize, I think it's a good condition.
It's easier, definitely. Yeah. So Adam is getting ready for his dive. He's from Australia, and he's actually the Australian record holder in this discipline. Oh, he's not.
Walter Stein.
Oh, Walter Stein is still the Australian record holder. There you go. So Adam is getting close to it. So that was my mistake. I thought he was already there. He's done it in training, equaled the Australian record in training, but he's not there yet in competition. So he's just getting ready to do his World Championship performance. And we'll see how that goes for him.
He's looking really relaxed
on my
now
list
on the
as a
line.
national record, so that's a little bit confusing. But we'll see how this dive goes. Definitely, it's a very deep dive. And for the viewers who've just tuned in, you will notice that the dive times are also getting long. He's announced a dive time of 3 minutes and 7 seconds. That's an estimate. So we generally give estimates of our dive time to the safety team so that they know when to expect us back. We don't have to stick to this time. It doesn't matter. We can take as long or short as we like, but it's just a safety issue.
And
so
for those of you who have been following us all week, you may notice a change that we now have a deep safety on scooter, and that's because of the depths we are going to. We also have 3 doctors on the platform. Just precautions, just because these dives are deeper, there could be a little bit more chance for something to not quite go so well, so we are prepared for that in the event that a diver is struggling for some reason. So, with this new implementation of Dive Eye, we are able to spot any difficulty. A scooter rescue could happen very quickly and pick up somebody if they needed to be assisted to the surface.
Yes, generally when people have problems, and Remy can testify to this because he's been actually safety diver in World Championship, they come around very quickly in freediving. It might look very disturbing to a viewer to see somebody black out underwater, but actually if you are safety correctly, and that means you never ever do this alone, ever, then you get picked up and you wake up, and most of the time people had a nice dream.
Yeah, sure. If managed correctly, a blackout is nothing of a big deal. Usually freedivers come back really quickly. Of course, it's something you always want to avoid, and it's something which can be very dangerous if you're on your own and you have nobody to assist you. But here in the competition, it's a very well managed environment. We make it as safe as possible. So yeah, like if there's no important incident, if it's just a normal hypoxic blackout, then after a few seconds the diver is back.
Just to the viewers at home maybe who are not used to the sport and haven't gone through formal freediving training, please don't hold your breath on your own, not in any swimming pool, not in the bathtub, and just because you might feel that you're surrounded by people in this public swimming pool doesn't mean that somebody's watching you, and we unfortunately keep having accidents that are really not necessary from people just swimming underwater or holding their breath in public pools or in lakes or in swimming pools at home. And so please make sure you're always watched by somebody, and if you're interested in freediving, it's really good idea to take some lessons. We have very good education nowadays, so then you'll be completely safe.
So Adam created his bubble now. He's really focusing on the dive, probably visualizing his dive, visualizing positive emotions.
You might be thinking of his partner Aaron, who was here recently,
Yeah.
who had to leave and go back to work, but he wanted to say, if you're watching Aaron, that he'll be thinking of you.
Oh, how sweet.
Do you want
Tiens,
to?
t'asseoir, Morgan. Oh, it's okay. Stay with us. So Morgan just joined us, but we'll have a look at Adam's dive first, and probably we'll try to have a bit of a feedback from Morgan about his dive.
We also need a little bit more explanation for our new viewers who have joined us from the Extreme channel, which has now just tuned in with over 2 million viewers. So
Wow.
we need to explain some of the things we've been going over already, but we have some new people that, as we go along, just kind of explain a little bit more some of the terms we use.
Okay, Adam just started his dive, so for new viewers, he's now in an area of positive buoyancy, so he has to kick quite strongly to fight over this positive buoyancy.
To help him move through that water column. So as he passes further into the water, the pressure itself will compress the air within his lungs and make him heavier. And so this is what enables him to into what we call the free fall
Which is
phase.
happening now. Like we can see he's kicking really slow and even stopped kicking. And now he might look like he's not going anywhere, but he's actually sinking. If you look at the current depth, he's now at 45 meters. He's gliding in the water because he's now in a zone of negative buoyancy. His lungs and wetsuit are compressed. He's sinking.
So
at a
despite the
good
fact
pace.
that he's not moving, yeah, his average speed is just under 1 meter a second.
I know his PV was 106 here, maybe 1 week
Oh,
ago.
look, early turn for Adam.
At
Equalization issue.
60 meters.
I guess his mind wasn't quite in it
It's a
today.
big early turn. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very early turn. We
Yeah.
now have Morgan Borquez joining us, who had a very successful dive. Congratulations,
Yeah,
Morgan.
thanks so very much, Carla.
Very nice. Mr. Perfect again, we were saying.
I don't know, because my first dive in free immersion, I early turned, it was a little bit frustrated. And after what I see, it could be a podium if I had succeeded this dive. But I was very happy to do this dive today. And for my next attempt for the no fins, it's very good for my mind.
Yep, that's your discipline. We're waiting for that. And
Yes.
Remy, would you want to ask a few questions in French for our French viewers for Morgan?
Yeah, sure. Morgan, donc ta plongée, une annonce à 101 mètres pour un maximum personnel. Rappelle-nous à combien de
Pour un
profondeur?
maximum personnel en compétition à 106, à l'entraînement à 109 en Grèce.
D'accord. Donc une annonce
Une
conservatrice.
annonce très conservative.
Comment tu te sentais avant ta plongée?
Je me sentais bien, très déçu par la noyadation d'Arnaud juste avant, notre jeune champion français.
Notre jeune espoir.
Notre jeune espoir, donc très déçu pour lui, mais assez focus malgré tout sur la mienne. Donc, on
Ça
va
t'a
dire
pas
que
perturbé?
J'ai un peu plongé
T'as
pour
réussi à
lui,
dépasser
j'ai
ça.
plongé pour tous les amis, donc frustrant, un peu triste pour lui, mais voilà, après il faut aussi savoir se concentrer sur soi.
Créer sa bulle et se reconcentrer. Donc tu as réussi à faire un départ dans de bonnes conditions.
Oui.
Comment s'est passée ta plongée?
Ma plongée s'est bien passée, on va dire si on parle un peu technique, le mouthfeel était un peu tendu, ce qui me vaut un petit peu des erreurs en ce moment ici. C'est un peu plus critique du coup sur les profondeurs de la descente, un peu moins sur le no fins, donc on verra effectivement sur la dernière épreuve. Mais après la descente c'est assez bien passé. Je ne sais pas si vous l'avez vu, moi je mets effectivement mes bras assez tôt le long du corps et je continue à palmer
jusqu'à
assez
60
profondément, voilà, comme tu as pu le voir. Donc, mais très bonne plongée, très bonne sensation et déjà en train de penser à ma plongée du 100 palmes pendant la remontée.
Okay, let me try to translate this
Give
and
us a
make a
quick
big memory
summary in
effort.
English.
Yeah. So Morgan just explained us that before his dive he was a bit, of course, frustrated and disappointed and sad for our colleague Arnaud Gérald, who is a very young freediver. He's 21 years old,
gosh.
and today he attempted a dive to 100 meters unsuccessfully just before Morgan. So it's always something a bit difficult to overcome mentally before your own dive. But Morgan is a very experienced athlete, so once needed, he managed to create his bubble and focus on his dive.
And I dive for friends, I dive for him. So
he dove for friends, he dove for his friends.
Vive la France, huh?
And vive la France.
And Morgan was really happy to be successful equalization-wise, because recently he explained us he struggled a bit with his mouth feel.
It's a little bit tricky.
For new viewers who might not know technical terms about freediving, mouth feel is the equalization method we use to equalize pressure in our ears for very deep dives. So it's something quite technical.
Often below 40 meters and beyond.
Yeah. And this is very delicate and technical, so Morgan was really happy, unlike few of the freedivers that we saw today, like Stig or Adam, to manage to equalize to the targeted depth. And that was the main challenge for him. And so the rest of the dive was controlled and easy.
Control, and I was already focused on the next step, the last step for the World Championship during the assembly.
Yeah, because Morgan's specialty is the Monofin, which competition day will be in 3 days. So that was kind of a training dive for you, yeah?
Almost.
So Johnny, who do we have
A little
coming
bit to
up
keep
now on
active,
the
huh?
white platform? Look at our list there. Right?
Yeah.
We've got
Aolin.
Aolin Wang. So he's the current national champion of China.
Yeah.
And he's been making big inroads on the depths over the last couple of years.
Yeah. He improved a lot each single year over the 2 last years.
Yes.
He's a very solid freediver. I think he just passed the 100 meters
last year.
Last year, that was
less
the first
than
man,
12 months ago.
First man of the middle umpire.
He is now underway. So let's have a look at his technique. He's applying a bit of effort to initiate his propulsion.
A little bit of knee bending, but very nice technique, starting well from the upper body.
Yeah. So quite often athletes will, they don't mind compromising their technique a little in the descent in order to be able to focus more on the relaxation.
Yeah, often in freediving that's a choice, not to have a perfect technique, but a compromise for relaxation.
Yeah. And as we look now, he's looking very relaxed.
Yeah.
Nice and stable in the water. So he's not spinning around the rope, he's not wobbling with the fin. And it looks like the diver is having to work hard to keep up with him. So he's moving.
Very classical technique. He kicked to 30 meters and then entered in the free fall position. And he has a very nice free falling technique.
Yes, as you can see, he stays nice and close to the line, so he doesn't deviate far away. As I say that, he starts to move away.
You have to know that each single muscular movement is a waste of oxygen down there. So the less you move during this phase, the more you save your oxygen for the way up, where of course you will have to move a lot to overcome the negative buoyancy.
That's right, and on top of that, additional movements...
He's gonna make it. He's gonna make it.
Can affect your equalization. So he's down below 100. There he goes.
Drops the tag, smooth turn, and now is the hard part of the dive.
Okay, so this can be maybe the most challenging part of the dive mentally. You know, coming up off the bottom, you know that you're down below 100 meters. What's your coping strategy in this?
You know also that you're still a little bit fresh at this time because the free falling is just stopped and you have enough energy to come back.
That's the nice part.
So yes,
this is the part where I enjoy the sensations. I'm like, oh, it's still easy. I don't feel like I need to breathe. But
you know it's coming.
It's now that starts the most difficult part, when you don't see yet the safety divers, so you know you're still quite deep, and you start feeling the ache in your muscles.
When did they arrive? When did they arrive?
And if you can see, his technique it's gone down a little bit, and he's using a lot of the legs.
Yeah. Like all of us, at this point of the dive, you feel your muscles feel sore, painful,
Is it in the blue or in the white?
But he's now with his safety divers, which is probably going to help him raise his spirits.
We can see he's doing more frequent, smaller kicks, more knees bending.
And he's good for time.
But he's there. He's at the surface. So now let's see how fresh he is.
And he breaches the surface.
He looks good.
He look?
He looks good. Yes.
No, has he got the nose clip on?
He forget his nose clip.
Ah.
Okay, so actually his surface protocol will start when the nose clip came off.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he forgot it.
He can still do it, but he won't.
Oh, so
It's going to be. He had the same problem the other day. Could not get that nose clip off, and by the time he did and did his protocol, it was overtime. We are limited by a rule that you must do the protocol within 15 seconds. That means 15.1 or anything is too long. So the judges will confer.
Yeah, red card because he forgot to remove his nose clip. That must be really difficult because he did the dive, he went there, he was conscious at the surface.
He looked very fresh.
But because he didn't remove his facial equipment, then it's a disqualification. It was probably a mix of narcosis and hypoxia.
I agree.
And too bad, maybe if it's a recurring issue with him, he should try to put in his routine to remove the nose clip, like at 10 meters, 7 meters, so that once back at the surface, he doesn't need to go through that step.
Exactly, there's strategies that can be applied, such as you say, to try and deal with this.
Maybe
Too
you
bad.
can tell our viewers why we have this protocol. What is the reason for it? Why do they have to remove the nose clip and give it a sign?
Morgan, would you like to answer this? Because you may have been freediving since before this
For 20 years, maybe.
protocol even came in.
Maybe I think this kind of order is ready to show that the freediver is very
lucid.
Is very lucid and control all his dive and is mentally in the surface and not underwater, still underwater. And you have to really do the protocol in the good order. It's very important.
Yes.
You have to breathe, you have to take off your nose clip, eventually your goggles, then to do the OK sign, then to tell the phrase. But
so you're really proving that you're clear in the mind,
totally controlled
in the body,
in the mind, and it's very important. And sometimes when you are a little bit hypoxic or a little bit narked because the dive was very long and very deep, you're not still with other surface with everybody, even after 10, 15 or 20 seconds. It's very difficult. So this protocol is very important, I think, for us.
There's a trend of opinion now among the freedivers and among other agencies to rethink this approach of the surface protocol, because now we have tools like Dive Eye who allow the audience to really share the dive with us. And for sure, when they see a dive like this, the diver went to 105 meters, that's a tremendous effort. He's back at the surface, he's conscious, like he can hold to the line, he can talk, he can move, he's really in control, but he forgot this little detail and we disqualify him for this. They might not understand. They might not share like the decision. So there's a trend of freedivers lobbying now to have a simpler surface protocol, more compliant with the media, allowing more the audience to share, which would be simpler, like show up at the surface, keep your airways out of the water for sure, give OK sign, say I'm OK, and that's it. And also a short...
whatever the order.
Yeah, whatever the order. So that the audience can really be happy with the freediver when he comes up and has a successful dive. Maybe not require so much of an athlete who just went to such tremendous depth.
Yeah, the thought in the past was that they made it more strict to try to keep divers not announcing things that were really beyond their capabilities.
And it's moving away from that just survive the dive.
Just survive the dive, yeah.
Yeah, but now we're able also to frame a bit the announces of the athletes, like so that they don't announce something stupid compared to their real capabilities.
I think with the evolution of the sport and the depths that we are diving now, you know, we need to always evolve and move forward and analyze what we're doing and see what we need to do.
So let's see how this will evolve, this discussion, but yeah.
So thanks a lot, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
coming
Thank
for
you.
providing
Questions again.
some insight.
You're both competitors. Thank you, Carla.
Good luck with your next performance,
Thank
and
you.
we'll be sure to see
We're
you
looking
again.
forward
And
to
we
no
will see
fins.
each other in the closing ceremony, of course.
Yes.
So now we're just waiting. We are coming up on the blue platform, and Johnny, who do we have on?
We have Michael Board, who dives for the UK and who is now based in the Gili Islands in Indonesia. His partner Kate will be coaching him, who you may have seen her dive yesterday. She is New Zealand national record holder, and I think, well, in at least 2 of the depth disciplines, free immersion and
Yes.
constant weight. And yeah, they're quite a dynamic duo.
Yeah, she does not like no fins, so she's done it a couple times just to try to get some points, but she doesn't enjoy it. Mike has been improving a lot since he broke that 100-meter barrier, and since he and Kate are full-time freedivers basically, and running a school and training camp there, and Jilly, his proficiency has really increased, and that's something that happens. The more you practice, the better you get.
Yeah, he had a real breakthrough this year to progress. It's hard sometimes. We all, like all athletes, hit a plateau and sort of beat our heads against the same depths. That can happen even for a couple of years. And then it's very nice to see someone who's already at such a high level to just open up all his depth again, and things are just working out for him this year very, very well. The equalization is finally really getting that much better that he can dive many meters deeper than he could before.
He's mixed up his training, and he's taken consult with a close friend of his, Goran Golak, and they've been working together. And yeah, the success in his dives really speaks for itself. So
Mike is the 4th deeper announced
Yes.
today, so up to now anything can happen with the podium.
what's the deepest successful dive that we have so far?
Well, take a look on your
It
list.
might be
I
Stefan.
think
I think it's
it's Morgan.
Actually,
Morgan?
Morgan with 101 is
101.
still the deepest successful dive of the day.
Okay, so Mike is now underway. It's a nice, smooth
So now we
technique.
see potential champions. Very nice technique.
He's improved that a lot by pool training this year, really working on the technique
Yeah,
and the
you
breath
can
hold.
really see that. That was beautiful.
It's made his dives much faster
He's
and
using
much more
his
comfortable.
hand to allow a maximum feel of his mouth. So here is again about compromise. Like we can see that he is sacrificing a bit of streamlining.
in order to be able to maintain a larger
Yes.
mouth. I think we'll see that very shortly. He'll bring that hand down as it becomes a bit more manageable.
He's struggling a bit with his free fall position now. I think bending a bit on the side with his hips.
And that will be partly to do with having that arm in that upward position.
Yeah.
So
because
now
he's
that they're
not-
more balanced,
It's not symmetric anymore, so he loses a bit the balance. And we can see he's not as relaxed and steady as Aolin was, for example. Like he's compensating a bit the free fall with slight movements of
the
his
fin.
monofin, of
Yes.
his legs, hips. Now his both hands are
down by the side, and he's progressing
Yeah.
down below 90 meters. So he's entering the final stages of the dive.
he's gonna make it.
Yeah, this is where the athlete really wants to focus on their relaxation, keeping their chest soft. Oh, he is.
Getting ready for the turn, a bit short.
He got it, but he was inside the candy
Yeah, it
cane.
was
He
tough.
turned a bit too early. He had to put an extra effort to reach the tag.
So competition nerves may have affected his equalization. He's coming up with quite a lot of speed, a lot of power and effort.
He's really fast. We can really see the difference between the first 20 meters where he was putting relaxation first, and now he's really putting efficiency first.
Yeah, you can see very little movement in the upper part of his body. Okay, so it's only the lower half that's working.
He's rushing to the surface.
Yeah, the safety divers will have quite a time to keep up with him.
The physiology here is that at depth, the vasoconstriction makes that your muscles work without oxygen. So this is the moment where you can really use your muscle
And you'll be really
while
feeling the
saving your
burn.
oxygen. Yeah.
He'll be really feeling the burn in his legs. Okay, and if you can
Yeah.
see the movements have started to slow.
He moved so much that now
His knees
He
are
must
opening
be
up a
in
little
a lot
bit,
of pain. We can see that he's spreading a bit the knees.
but he's approaching the surface. Very good time.
There he is.
2:47. He's a long way up. He's looking fresh.
It looks, it's difficult, but he's doing it.
Well, I'm glad I don't have to make that call.
That's going to be a tough call. That's
Tricky
going to be a
call
tough
to
call.
make.
The rules say that you must be facing the judges when you give the protocol.
He was looking at them, but not facing them.
No, so
He
that
looked at them
is-
kind of after the protocol, so this is going to be really,
Yeah, this is
they're going to have to
a
read
really
into
judgment call.
This is
interpretation.
a very difficult one.
Depends very much
Very-
now on how well the judges could actually see that.
This is
But actually, he was on his profile, so they could see the protocol. That's a very tricky decision for the judges now. I wouldn't like to be in their shoes.
Okay, so
That's a red card.
he's
Yeah,
received
that's
a red card, but this is something that he can protest,
That he can protest.
and he's in with a chance of winning it. So the benefit of the doubt does go with the athlete when it comes down to the review of the footage.
It was such a difficult decision for
That
the
was
judges
really
that probably they wanted to be on the safe side and announce a
Yes.
red card to let him the possibility to protest and
yes,
see.
and they can look at it together
On the
film
video,
and
yeah,
make a
frame by
determination.
frame, and
Yes.
see
Yes.
what's the final decision.
Yes, the athlete always has a right to protest a decision, and when the judges are having to make a split-second decision, sometimes they just have to go with whatever they think at the moment. And but there is a chance for it to be reconsidered, and Mike, certainly has a right to protest that if he wants to later on.
So now we know that for sure there will be a bit of uncertainty on the result
Yes.
until this afternoon that we have the temporary result, and then the possibility for the athlete to protest, and then the time to consider this protest and have the final results tonight.
Yes, so for our preliminary results, when that will get posted, it will say DQ, disqualification, SP, surface protocol. So each kind of disqualification has a definition as to what the reason is, and we also have a yellow card for early turn as a possibility. We have different ones, a grab penalty, different things that can happen. So now over on, we're really getting into our deeper dives. On the white platform, we have William Trubridge of New Zealand. He is our current world record holder in the no fins discipline and in free immersion. This is his the one discipline that he does not have the record in, and is not quite as easy for him as the other.
You want some?
Did you say easy? So William has announced 116 meters and a dive time of 3:05, and he's on the line getting prepared. Johnny, fellow countryman from New Zealand, what would you like to say about William today?
My teammate.
All right, so this should be a dive that, well, it's well within his capabilities, and I think we've seen him do 120 meters in training here. However, it's very choppy today, and as you've seen by the results so far, the pressure tends to get to a diver on competition day. So, but he's a professional who's been doing this sport for many, many years. I think 10 or 11 years at least. So,
But what do you think strategy-wise? He announced 116, but there's nobody close to that depth behind him. So he could turn early if he calculates well. He could save few meters, turn early on purpose.
he could. I think he probably just wants to do the dive for himself and get a white card.
Yeah, but we're in a competition, in a world championship, so
Well, he's actually positioned, let's say the deepest two announced divers are successful. He will get the bronze medal. However, he's also in with a very good chance to pick up a silver or even a gold,
Yeah, depending.
And
just doing any dive above 106, because we don't know yet the outcome for Mike's dive.
Well, remember, he's also going to lose points. If he does 106, then he would lose
No,
11
for
points.
sure, 106 points.
Okay,
not
yeah.
meters. So yeah, we'll see if he prefers achieving the depth or playing the results first.
My pick is going to go for the bottom.
My pick also.
Yeah?
But definitely would have an option here. He probably won't pick it though.
If he goes for the bottom plate, he's in with a chance of gold. Anything can happen on the competition day.
If you look at William here, you can see how very, very relaxed he always looks in comparison to Mike, whom we just saw, who was struggling a little bit with his positioning in the free fall, and you could see that he was actually working a bit.
Definitely.
William, there's just nothing. It's total relaxation.
William has very, very slight movement of the monofin, but it's slightly more controlled. And there he is, taking the tag.
Touchdown.
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 Okay, and he's coming up quite a large amplitude.
Yeah, very large amplitude. We can see the difference with Mike board style.
And he's coming up with speed. So he's going to make the dive eye guys work to keep up.
He started slow to protect his lungs at depth, but now we can see that he increased the frequency of his kicks. So now he's really in the efficiency zone.
You can see a little bit of knee bending and knee opening, which isn't quite perfect technique, but still looks very nice.
But massive amplitude though.
Oh, it's starting to circle a little bit.
Yeah,
he does tend to do this. Like I've safetied him on many dives, and he tends to circle in the final meters.
In 2011, I was safetying him, and he was like a god, freediving god for me, and I was surprised to let him know, William, I know that you're circling around the line when you come up. Okay.
Safety divers have.
So he's slowed down quite significantly. Should be allowing positive buoyancy to start to take place. He may be starting to feel some fatigue, which would be normal after such a dive. You can see the technique is really starting to diminish. This is going to be interesting. Breaks the surface. He looks pretty good at this stage. Get that nose clip off.
A bit of
He's on the edge. He hasn't completed it.
Oh, he's fighting.
I'm okay. He got it in. So it'll just be a matter of time.
Wow.
And he loves to.
That was a surface protocol on the edge.
He likes to build the anticipation.
Yeah, he will have been cutting it close on the time, but it should have been enough.
Yeah, that is not unusual for him. That is pretty typical of
Yes.
Roatan. He had a few protocols this year at 11 seconds, and as a judge, I was amazed.
And
competition is the place where you push your limits. So the big question is how much you can push them, but without pushing them too much. Like this 1 meter that you can announce.
Ooh.
Okay, that was not
What was
expected.
the call?
It was a red card. I don't know what the reason
That was not expected.
Wow, so the door is wide open.
Yeah.
We may yet see Morgan become world champion.
World champion, I don't know. There's still Alexei and Dave Mullins.
But anything can happen.
On the podium, maybe, and also anything can happen with a protest.
Yeah, it's interesting how in our sport, if you think about it, because we have to actually announce our performance the day before, if everybody did their performance, you would actually already know who's going to win. But this is never how it plays out, and that's where it gets interesting. The cards get mixed on the day, and that's when everything always changes.
Can you see the big difference between yesterday and today? Between
the girls and
women
the guys?
and men? Yesterday, out of the 4th maximum announced, there were the 3 girls on the podium.
That's
Today, I think we need to look down to the 6th or maybe 8th deepest announced to have an idea of who will be on the podium. Like, to me, the girl announced more safely than the men. They announce what they feel, what they can do, including a stress factor for the competition day. While I think the men announce what they think they might be able to do and which would allow them to be on the podium.
Yeah, and
So
maybe
why do you think this is, Remy? Do you think it's...
Oh, let me just break in. The dive eye guys have a view here of some people down a few meters taking some oxygen. Would you please explain to everyone why they're doing that and the reason for that?
Okay, so they're breathing oxygen immediately, well, more or less immediately after the dive. So this is a precautionary measure that we take to help to offload the nitrogen. So it's to reduce risks of decompression sickness. Anna, both of you guys are technical divers, so perhaps you could explain a little further.
So basically, it's not very much is known in freediving, and even in scuba diving, actually, decompression sickness is still largely has unknown factors. So we're just erring on the safe side here, because we do know that decompression sickness also can affect freedivers, and it just helps to breathe a little bit of oxygen after you dive. even with recovery from the effort, actually, it helps you to recover a little bit faster and to be ready sooner for the next maximum performance, which if you're competing in all 3 disciplines in this World Championship, is a lot to actually get through.
Yeah, I agree. I think most freedivers breathe the oxygen more for a recovery purpose than really DCS prevention, because we
the
saw
reason it
DCS
is
in
provided by the
freediving,
organisers
but
is
really in extreme cases, not really in depth competition like this. And for example, in scuba, DCS is something that we can treat really, really easily. In France, for example, oxygen is considered as a medicine. It can be prescribed only by physicians, only if you have a condition. So in France, you're not allowed to breathe underwater for the sake of preventing something which has slow chances to happen. So we're just allowed to breathe medicinal oxygen if we had a blackout for recovery.
So that's quite a unique view in that country. Around the world, technical divers are using
we often have
oxygen
unique
for
views
decompression.
in France.
But maybe we should have a look at who's the next diver coming up.
Sure.
David Mullins.
Because that's actually a very unique diver, and there's another one from New Zealand. So Johnny, I think you should tell us a little bit about Dave's background, whom we haven't seen in World Championships for a little while.
Okay, so Dave is a New Zealand freediver who's been around also for many years, but he tends to frequent competitions infrequently,
but he last year participated in the World Spearfishing Championships rather than the team event, which we were somewhat sad to see, but he is a world record holder in spearfishing, so he splits his passion between the two things, using his skills in both ways for competitive freediving and spearfishing.
That's right. Dave is also quite a unique character, and when you look at the size of him, he's almost 2 meters tall.
Yeah, he's very large.
There's not many freedivers that have his stature, and he's got at least a 12-liter lung capacity. I think when he's packing, he has 15 liters.
Wow.
Now that's more than twice of what I have. Okay, so he's got almost another set of lungs.
And Johnny, would you please explain what packing is and why our divers do that?
Okay, so packing is when we're adding additional air to what we have already taken as a full breath. It's an advanced technique where an athlete will use their mouth as a pump, and they're just adding small amounts at a time, but when you do it successively multiple times, it can become quite a large amount, as we've seen with Dave adding 2 to 3 liters.
You will see him actually, if you look closely, when you have a view of the surface, that he's wearing 2 neck weights even. So he's wearing a lot of weight compared to most of the other divers that we've seen here, and that reflects the fact that he has so much air in his lungs, which gives him a lot of buoyancy that he has to overcome to leave the surface.
He's diving with, I believe, something in the region of 3.2 kilograms. And his neutral buoyancy would be the same as almost all the other divers. So despite the fact that he's got a thin wetsuit on, all of that additional air in his lungs means that he has to work that much harder to get down through the positively buoyant phase.
He announced 126 meters, the maximum depth announced on this competition day. What do you think, Johnny?
Do I think? Well, Dave should be good when it comes to hypoxia. He's had a few issues with equalization in the training, but he did manage a dive to 125 meters just prior to this one, so he had a bit of a breakthrough. And if we get, I think if he gets down below 100 meters, then I think he's going to go all the way.
You can see with the position of his arms that he's really putting first relaxation.
We've seen
and
Dave.
I guess with the amount of weight he has around the neck, he should be free falling quite early in his dive.
No, actually, he needed that amount of weight just to enable him to free fall with a similar profile to everybody else.
So 30 meters.
30 meters and he's free falling.
We've seen Dave do very, very good dives with very short training periods, and then sometimes do early turns in competitions in World Championships, because he's someone that suffers quite a lot from the nerves, from the competition nerves, and it brings on an early edge to breathe, and that makes him struggle with equalization, which is for him definitely the main issue here.
Not only that, but to dive to 126 meters, you need to get the equalization pretty much perfect. You know, there's zero room for error. So
that's a beautiful free fall.
Beautiful free fall, nice and controlled and stable. And what's going to happen as he gets deeper, those lungs, those big lungs that he has, will continue to compress, and his speed will actually continue to increase. So he's now below 80 meters. This is This is where we're going to tell if he's going to make it all the way, because he can sometimes have contractions in his dive, and if he can control himself through that.
Good right now. Every dive that I have seen him do, if he makes it to the plate, he's good. It's just whether or not he can get there or not.
Okay, so if Luca and Tammy are tuning in, he wanted to send a big shout out to you guys. Down below 110. Okay, so he's really focusing on the relaxation now.
Very good.
He will make it to the bottom.
You can see it's getting darker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
126, there he is.
Oh my
Whoa.
God.
Awakened
And he's
by the bottom
bumped
plate.
his head into the plate.
He could have kept on going.
Yeah.
So equalization was definitely working today.
Now his stature is going to come into play. Look how big he is and how fast he can move through the water.
Well, he has a
Beautiful
nice
technique.
technique. Very nice technique.
Undulation.
He
We
has
can
helped,
see he starts right from the sternum,
he's
and
helped
the
world
upper body
records
is
in the
not
pool.
moving at all.
He has.
And you can see he's held world records in the pool in dynamics, so the distance swimming with the fin, and you can see that really here, where all that hours of technique training in the pool comes into play and coming up from
I
there.
think up to now it's one of the most beautiful kicking technique that we've seen.
This is what I like to see, is when you see somebody diving deeper, you should expect to see them have some even nicer technique, you know? I
Yeah.
think poor technique can be forgiven for some of the earlier divers, but for people that start to dive 80, 90, 100 meters, they really should focus on their technique.
That's definitely beautiful, and now he's back at 40 meters and his technique is still quite good.
Now, Dave has a very strong pool background, as has already been mentioned, and I know he spends a lot of time in the pool with his preparation. What a lot of people wouldn't know is that he actually struggled with the flu for several months before arriving, so this really did affect his the time that he could put into his training.
Both safeties are with him. All three safeties are with him now. They're escorting him to the surface. We've just got a few moments to wait.
He
does
looks
a big
in
pull.
control, he knows
Now the
definitely where
positively
he is.
buoyance has taken over.
He's controlling the way up.
He's turned to
Have a look.
face the platform.
Yeah, he looks very clear.
Wow, he looks super fresh. Removes his nose clip, his goggles.
Say it, Dave.
Looks good. Looks good.
Wow.
Well, that
He's-
looked extremely
He
easy.
has a moment. He had a moment of struggling. He's really white.
But very much with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a
Absolutely.
beautiful performance.
I mean, you would expect.
Regardless of if he gets the white
Yes,
card, that was
definitely. That was
one
a
of the most
beautiful dive.
incredible dives I've ever
Impressive.
seen.
Yeah.
You would always expect.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's some pressure
That
for
was-
Alexei now.
That was beautiful performance, and
Definitely.
we'll have to get Dave up here to have a few words after he's had a chance to breathe some oxygen.
He's not the most outgoing, but we'll drag him up here whether he wants to or not. But now the excitement is really come to our last diver in this top section here, Alexei Molchanov, our current world record holder. For all of you who want to know what all the records are in AIDA International, please go to our website, aidainternational.org. Look at the ranking. All of the world records are prominently
Look at
displayed
him.
on there.
It's like he didn't even do anything.
No, it was impressive.
Alexei is from Moscow, and he's from a very famous freediving family. His mother, Natalia Molchanova, is arguably the best freediver in history. And he grew up as a freediver. He has a very comprehensive coaching and training program, and he does most of his training in the pool. And that's where he's gained all his strength, is through this pool training that he does. So,
Much like Dave.
yeah, much
Yeah.
like Dave.
I think now we're really watching a fight in this freediving pit, because like few seconds ago Dave had a very successful dive on the blue
Yes.
platform,
Yes,
and now 1 minute after Alexei will go for the right same depth on the white platform, which is 4 meters away from the blue one. So it's now a lot of pressure
Puts a
on
lot of
Alexei's
pressure on
shoulder.
Alexei. Yeah, and
But he's strong, he's mentally very strong.
He is, and
And here he goes.
He's about to go.
And I spoke to Alexei recently, yesterday actually, and he welcomes the competition, because for the
He
last few
loves
years,
this.
you know, he hasn't had anyone other than Guillaume Neri, who recently retired, to challenge him.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's allowed him to come and improve his depths on the other disciplines, but I think he's really looking forward to having somebody push him a little bit more.
That's an incredible, challenging dive that we are seeing now.
Now Alexei is also known for his beautiful technique.
Oh, what's
Very
happening?
flexible.
There's a rope.
There's a rope in front of dive eye. I hope this is gonna be fixed soon.
And they fixed it just with a little.
Just for us, that's
Nice.
great.
Yeah, so Alexei
Nice
is
technique
known
from
for his
our
technique.
dive eye operator.
This should be fine for him equalizing wise. He's been deeper before.
Okay.
It's been reported that he has been training at 132 meters, so if that's the case, if that is true, then this would be 6 meters shorter than what he's been working on recently. So, but you know, competition nerves and having a successful dive right in front of you at your announced depth can change everything.
Yeah, that's right.
So we can see that Alexei quit his row position quite early by 25 meters, putting his arms along the body, trying to relax as much as possible. And we can see that he's maintaining the speed with quite regular kicks, I would say each 5-10 meters.
Yeah, he's doing an intermittent kick and
Different technique from Dave's one. Another small kick.
So this gets really long for the diver to get to this kind of depth. The actual time that you're just falling and waiting for the time to pass is also something that beginners often struggle with.
yeah, that's right. And
that
it's
relaxation.
it's better not to actually be waiting for the time to pass, but to find a way to go to another place.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it can become one of the most beautiful parts of the dive.
Alexei is coached by his wife, Lena. She is a 2-time Olympian. She's a 400 freestyler, so she's familiar with competition nerves, and she will be coaching him when he gets to the surface.
Alexei is a very solid freediver, of course. He's like one of the best ones currently. Recently he did this kind of depth quite sometimes, but he struggled a bit with the surface protocol.
Oh, and he's falling quite a long way from the line.
Yeah, what's happening?
Pull himself
Whoa,
back.
that's not something you want
Oh,
on
but he's
such
still gonna get there.
deep dive.
Yep.
What's going
on
on?
it.
What's going on with the plate?
No,
I
it's
think the
diver is
diver
below
is a little
the
bit
freediver.
deeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
that's-
depth of dive eye
that's
doesn't
okay.
always match
So
exactly
this is
with
That was
where
a nice
a
save
freediver
by
needs
Alexei.
like nerves of steel to overcome such a stressful thing.
If anybody can do it, it'll be Alexei.
It will be Alexei.
What do you win?
you went.
So he's looking strong, beautiful techniques.
So yeah, we were saying that recently on his recent dives, he struggled a bit with the surface protocol, doing it correctly, but turning his back to the platform.
Yeah, so
Probably due to narcosis and
with narcosis.
hypoxia.
Yeah. So hopefully we see him turn facing
Facing to the judges.
facing to the judges.
We've just been commenting before that Dave was looking a little bit white. You would expect a 126 meter dive to be visible in the diver because that's absolute maximum performance for anyone, no matter how good they are.
Of course.
So someone will, of course,
Well,
have some effect
looking
of
at that
that
last
on the
performance,
surface.
I don't think it is his maximum. He was
Yeah.
he was stopped by the plate, so equalizing was good.
Quite true.
Very fresh on the surface.
There you go.
And one thing I like about Dave is you never see him have to be coached through the surface protocol. You know, he makes these dives look easy. Alexei is now with the safety divers. If you can see, he doesn't sprint. He maintains a steady
Maintain
rhythm.
speed, but you can see with the way the safety freedivers are kicking
He moves
fast
quickly.
that he's going fast.
He's
It
a
doesn't
very
look like, but
powerful
he's
diver.
efficient, very efficient.
Here
He's
he
one with
comes.
the most beautiful kicking technique also.
Let's hope he turns facing the platform. There he
Yes,
is.
he's facing the platform, the tag is in his hand, he's breathing calmly, removes his nose flip, he looks good.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that is a
Yes.
very
Amazing
nice.
Bravo,
surface
bravo,
protocol.
Alexei.
Amazing one. Whoa, like he didn't dive at all. Impressive.
And
Will we have two world champions on the
That's
same
right,
night?
we're going to have two world
Chance
champions.
in the middle.
Quite a fitting end, I believe.
I think it's the first time
I think
we
so
have
too.
such a situation.
Incredible performances. The two
Wow.
deepest divers, probably the two most beautiful technique, and they come up looking clean as a whistle.
Yeah, and back to back, two outstanding dives, really. I mean, fantastic to see here.
Well, that's going to conclude our morning broadcast for our first session. We have a break now in order to change the camera batteries, and we will be back with the second half, some shallower dives at the end. But you know, please join us again. And Remy and Johnny, how would you like to do a little summary summary on our morning dives this morning. What do you think overall?
Well, overall, we've had a bit of a mixed bag. I think we started off okay with quite a few white cards. We had a middle session where maybe the guys were overextending themselves a little bit, and then finally the 2 deepest divers coming really strong.
Yeah.
The 3 deep.
I think if we talk about the temporary results, we have 2 world champions with gold medals, shared gold medals, and then I think the next in line for now, before protests, is maybe Morgan Borkis with 101 meters.
So it's a big gap there.
A Russian, a Kiwi, and a Frenchman.
Yes, but
let's see.
It'll depend on whether both Mike and William decide to protest. We don't really know what happened on both of those dives, so we'll have to see.
So we'll have to be patient until around 7 tonight.
7 o'clock before we hear.
Yeah, before we know the definitive ranking.
We've been talking about also how the Women's Day went a little bit smoother yesterday than the men's. It has to be said also that the conditions definitely have been a lot harder here today. There hasn't been any current, but there's been quite a lot of swell on the surface, and that does affect how the diver can relax before his dive.
All right, time-wise, we need to cut now, but we will be back in a few minutes. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in just a little bit.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you.